as x approaches 0, y approaches large negative numbers. And it's like, what am I going to do with that? When will I ever use that?
Okay, is Scott here? Oh, one more minute, Scott. Well, good morning, and welcome to the June 4th Oregon Tourism Commission meeting. To everyone that has joined us here today in Medford, and to those joining us through the Travel Oregon Industry YouTube channel, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Today's meeting materials, including the agenda and supplemental material, can be found on the Travel Oregon Industry website if you'd like to follow along. Commissioners, I'd like to acknowledge that in holding a meeting today, we met all public meeting notice requirements provided by state law. As defined in Oregon statute, the Oregon Tourism Commission has the ability to hold executive session for defined purposes. The Commission did that just yesterday to receive an update on the CEO performance goals in preparation of the annual review, which will be conducted in September. With that said, I'm excited to welcome the newest member of the Oregon Tourism Commission, confirmed just last week. Jennifer, I know I made you do this yesterday, but I would love it if you would tell us a little bit about yourself. Jennifer Rowe.
Sure, thank you. My name is Jennifer Rowe. I live in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and I own Crater Lake Zipline and Rowe Outfitters. I've been in the tourism industry for almost 30 years. So I'm excited to come and work with all of these fantastic people, and I really appreciate the warm welcome I've received in my short stint so far. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Good morning. My name is Travis Hill. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Umpqua Indian Development Corporation, which is owned and operated by the Cow Creek Tribe, which oversees Seven Feathers Casino Resort, Anvil Northwest, Tacoma Roasting Company. Excited to see the Moose Munch here today. Thank you, Travel Medford, for that. Appreciate that. We had a chance to tour this beautiful facility, and was honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pendleton.
Good morning. David Pendleton with America's Hub Tours, Oregon Tour Experts. And I'm excited to be here today because for many, many months now, I've heard so much about the work that's being done here in sports tourism. And this area is recognized throughout the United States. So I'm looking forward to learning more about the future that you have planned for this facility.
Thank you. Commissioner Patel.
Good morning, Harish Patel. I own lodging facility in Pendleton and Coos Bay. I'm immediate past chair of Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association.
Commissioner Grummels.
Good morning. My name is David Grummels, founder of Rogue Creamery and Churn. It's with great pride that I welcome you all to my home, Medford, Oregon. And I really appreciate the Commission being here and taking time out of their busy schedules to explore and experience the best of the Rogue Valley. They really got to see the landscape on a tour throughout the valley into the Applegate and experience what agritourism is all about. And we really appreciate Parkhurst and Troon for taking that time. And with that pride, I also want to extend gratitude for everyone celebrating Pride this month.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevenson.
Good morning. My name is Erin Stevenson. I am the founder of a small hospitality company in McMinnville. We have a collection of vacation rentals called Third Street Flats, the Atticus Hotel, and a Mediterranean-inspired restaurant called Cypress. I also chair the board of Visit McMinnville for a couple more weeks at least. And those of you who come to Commission meetings know I'm a huge fan of what our small communities can accomplish when we work together across Oregon, and this facility, to me, is absolutely mind-blowing and a testament to what a community can do when they dig deep, they work together, they dream big, and they make it happen. So thank you so much to Southern Oregon and to Medford for being an inspiration across the state in terms of what our communities can really do when they dig deep and dream. So thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I feel like that deserves a round of applause right now, so yes. Todd.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Todd Davidson, the CEO at Travel Oregon. I would only echo what Erin just said, and I will just add, TJ Moose Munch is my love language, so thank you.
Scott.
Good morning, folks. There's nothing left to be said that hasn't already been said this morning beyond the fact that I'm Scott Youngblood, opening Cascada Spa and Hotel up in Portland later this year, and looking forward to having you all as our guests.
Vice Chair Willits.
Good morning. My name is Greg Willits. I have Five Pine Lodge and Shibui Spa in lovely Sisters, Oregon. I'm chair of Explore Sisters, so please come visit. And I have had a wonderful time last night after an exceptional day touring your region, and sat with TJ and heard about the collaborative work being done for sports tourism. And then it dawned on me that he must have gotten up before me in the morning and walked the paths I walked and up the hills I walked and left me balls to drive home the point that there's a lot going on in this region and a lot driving people to this region. This is just one of them. Sorry, I stole your ball from down the court, but to prove a point. But to Aaron's point, it's great to see what happens when a community comes together. The livability is focused on, the tourism is part of that discussion, and it works together to create incredible spaces for community. So thank you so much for the warm welcome to your region.
Thank you, Vice Chair Willits. And my name is Lucinda DeNovo, Director of Sales and Events for the Mill Casino Hotel and RV Park, owned by the Coquille Indian Tribe. I am also Chair of the Coos Bay North Bend Charleston Visitor and Conventions Bureau, Council President of Coos Bay City Council, and your Chair of the Oregon Tourism Commission. And with that said, my remarks this morning will be focused on commission engagement. Some of the commissioners have recently joined Travel Oregon staff for various engagement opportunities to support advocacy and sales programs. But before I begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the upcoming retirements of two icons in the industry, Carrie Westland and Alana Hewson. These dynamic women have made a tremendous impact in the industry. In addition to their work in their respective destinations, they have both served as chair of this very commission. We know the industry is predominantly made up of women, and it's inspiring to see how these two women pave the way for others, including myself, to serve in roles of leadership. I would like to congratulate Alana and Carrie on an indelible legacy they will both leave the industry. Vice Chair Willits, Commissioner Gremmels, and Youngblood attended the U.S. Travel Association Destination Capitol Hill in March. We would like to share our gratitude for their participation in the annual legislative advocacy event and welcome Commissioner Gremmels to share a few words about his time in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Chair DeNovo. Destination Capital Program was truly a remarkable and exceptional outreach program that it raised awareness of not only our state, but the regions we live and are so passionate about, but also national issues that are in front of us. I was truly impressed with the Travel Oregon team for their knowledge and preparing the commission to present to honorable representatives and senators. And of course, their staff, who took time and diligent notes for all that we had to share to further support the travel industry and reinforcing the positive impacts of tourism, economically and through employment, and of course, providing great experiences for those who travel to our region. But also, we took time to share our concerns about visa wait times and how to expedite those visa wait times for those traveling from international places into our region, and further support funding and expansion of airports, and further highlighting future opportunities to support us, our region, our state, for relief such as wildfire relief if necessary. And also highlighting those regional efforts like the Chateau at Oregon Caves and asking for their further support of that restoration project. And again, a huge appreciation for Travel Oregon's team and their work, and Todd for his unbelievable Rolodex of contacts and putting Travel Oregon and the Commission in front of those influential legislative leaders. And with gratitude for Kate Baumgartner's work in preparing us all. Thank you.
Forgive me, I was remiss in reminding everyone that we do have an opportunity to hear comments from stakeholders or partners this morning. So if you plan on making those remarks, there is a sign-up sheet in the back of the room, so please make sure to sign up. With that said, I would like to now ask Commissioner Pendleton. He recently attended the IPW event, and I attended it with him, and I would love for you to speak on that, Commissioner Pendleton.
Okay. Well, I can say that, IPW is probably the biggest trade show that we have here in the United States. It actually started back in 2003, I believe. This year, we're very fortunate, considering where we are in terms of the industry and the recovery. We had a little over 5,700 people who attended the IPW this year. Now, understand that makes up a little over 70-plus countries throughout the world. So that's very impressive, and it gives us a one-stop shop, really, to have the opportunity to meet and visit with them. When you look at the buyers, I believe there was a 16% increase of buyers this year and 16 or 7% increase of media. And so I know all of our teams worked really hard there. I just want to share a couple of highlights of IPW with you this year for me. Number one, with the 5,700 plus people entering the building, I was pleased to see that Oregon had a rotating banner that was visible and sharing a lot of what Oregon has to offer to every person attending that. And that's not an easy chore, because normally you think of the LA, New York, Vegas, but Oregon was right there and present. The team, both Travel Portland, Travel Oregon, and other stakeholders throughout Oregon that participated, I think did a great job of collaborating and working together. Our booth was just amazing. When you stepped into it, you felt like you just crossed the border into Oregon, not the sign that says visit but don't stay. Okay, but it was a very welcoming booth in many ways. And last, the cocktail hour. There's nothing like it. It doesn't matter what part of the U.S. or country you're from. Everyone knows about Oregon's cocktail hour, sharing the Pinot and other wines of Oregon and beer. And so every afternoon, you can just see this crowd of people. And I think this may have been the first year that we actually had given out tickets, because there's such a demand and people want to come over. And so I think over the years, the team has done a great job of leveraging it. And of course, we have Bob here, which it was a pleasure to sit in a few appointments with as well and promote Southern Oregon. So Bob, thanks for your time and effort in showing up.
Thank you, David. I, too, attended for the first time. It was a truly amazing experience. I do want to thank Greg and Gabi and Rose and Mark for the stunning images in that booth. I also want to thank Lizzie. I was nervous to conduct an appointment, so Lizzie, Meg Trendler, Janice Longlinay, David, all made me feel very comfortable. So a wonderful experience, and I think we had over 250 appointments, so well done. It's a true partnership and a really collaboration, and I just want to say thank you to all those that participated and thank the team. You will hear later that both Vice Chair Willits and I participated in the recent RDMO RFP process. So to say that commissioners have been engaged in the work around the state and the nation is an understatement. But we count it as a privilege, and we will continue to look for additional opportunities for commissioners to engage. One of the pleasures of taking these meetings in the state is the opportunity to engage with local partners, including the staff of the Travel Oregon Welcome Centers. This is the time of year as visitor travel peaks. Our welcome centers stand as crucial pillars of our travel infrastructure. The unwavering commitment of Travel Oregon's Welcome Center team in elevating the visitor experience leaves a profound impression, demonstrating to visitors that their arrival is not just a moment, but a significant event that we value and cherish. Here are just a few of the visitor comments we recently received. It's highly recommended to stop by a state welcome center if you want to feel Oregon's heart. What a welcoming space. Great people greet you in the center with the warmth of Oregonians and enthusiasm for all the great state has to offer. What a fantastic way to welcome people to Oregon. The knowledgeable staff were so helpful. Great brochures, maps, and information about all the great things to do in the area. Beautiful, clean building. This makes me proud to be an Oregonian. And finally, amazing, friendly, super incredible folks. Visiting the Welcome Center was a truly wonderful experience. The best part was the great treatment by the staff. We sincerely appreciate the team making the magic happen in all of our welcome centers. We want to acknowledge Janet Barnes of the Klamath Falls Welcome Center and Karen Cleaver of the Ontario Welcome Center. These two incredible people have dedicated over 40 years to welcoming visitors to Oregon. To all the Welcome Center team members, please know that we recognize and appreciate your work. We hear the Ashton Welcome Center has some fantastic free coffee too. So let's give them a big round of applause for all that they do on behalf of Oregon. I am just about to wrap up my remarks, and I'm very excited to congratulate Vice Chair Willits for Five Pines Lodge's recognition as the #3 hotel in the U.S., according to TripAdvisor. Congratulations, Vice Chair Willits.
Thank you, but it is not me because I'm rarely in the office there. It's, as everybody knows, it's staff, and it's the great people I work with. So thank you, though.
That's all you're going to say? This is the first time you've been so quiet.
Is it?
Well, congratulations. So we do have a very full agenda today, so let's go ahead and get started. Commissioners, in holding the meeting this morning throughout the state, one of the important opportunities we have is to hear from our local partners welcoming us into their communities. It's my pleasure to welcome Bob Hackett, Executive Director of Travel Southern Oregon, and TJ Holmes, Senior Vice President of Travel Medford, to join us today, along with Cam, forgive me, Cam, I don't remember your last name, I apologize, from Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you. On behalf of Commissioner Gremmels and Rowe and Hill, we welcome you to Southern Oregon. David from the Rogue Valley, Jen from Klamath Basin, Travis from up in the Umpqua Valley have a great representation up here. And on behalf of Travel Southern Oregon, as an organization, and my new destination marketing manager, Raina, are you here, Raina? No, Raina from over, who had been to Discover Klamath, coming over. So we are now a Trans-Cascade organization. And on behalf of Tammy Mendels, who manages the Ashland Welcome Center, Tammy is here. So if you get a chance to say hello to Tammy, more than 25,000 visitors coming through that per year and growing. So we value the relationship with Travel Oregon a lot. It means a lot to our region. The 10-year strategic vision is part of the way that we structure the work that we do. The destination stewardship model is the model that we use, and the equity, economic prosperity, and stewardship lenses are lenses that we actually look through when we do our work. So we appreciate the partnership, And when we are out talking about our 4 pillars, which I loved going to IPW to do, you all experienced the wine and culinary out in the Applegate Valley at Troon with the regenerative work they're doing there. We are home to 2 food trails, the Great Umpqua Food Trail and the Rogue Valley Food Trail. Our outdoor rec opportunities are famous, and the Rogue River and the 200 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail, and mountain biking as a destination. We have a destination strategic plan with Chris Bernhardt that's going to start to really focus some of the work we're doing in the outdoor rec space. Our national park assets are unique in the state. Crater Lake National Park, the Oregon Caves National Monument and Preserve, the Cascade Siskiyou National Monument. And as you'll note when you talk to us, we like California here in Southern Oregon. They're our neighbors. We go there. We live there. We recreate with them. And the Lava Beds National Monument is part of what Klamath Falls talks about when they talk about visitors. So we're very close with California. And then finally, the cultural component of Southern Oregon is, again, another distinctive part of coming here. The Oregon Shakespeare Festival for 90 years has been sort of a bedrock cultural institution in the state, and after COVID was very hard for all arts organizations. We're really happy that Ashland is seeing traffic come back in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. I was in San Francisco this weekend, and in the pink section saw a 2-page spread about the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and so the word is getting out there. With the Brit Festivals here in Jacksonville, and in addition to the Holly Theater will be coming online here soon in Medford. Part of what I love about working in this region and is the resilience of all the partners here. Since the commission has come, I think 2017 or 2018, we were in Grants Pass, I believe is the last time that the commission was in the Rogue Valley. Since then, we have had a lot of disasters, and as you can see, our partners are still going strong. But with the Almeda fire, that tremendously impacted the communities of Talent and Phoenix, but that wasn't the only fire going on. The Obenchain fire in Central Point, the Archie Creek fire up in the Umpqua Valley, the 242 fire in Chiloquin, the Bootleg fire out in Lake County. It's part of living here, and I do want to make a point on behalf of the Southern Oregon hospitality industry, and I believe on behalf of Travel Oregon as well, to commend our legislative partners. We have a very diverse representative body in the state legislature, but when it comes to pulling together to support our industry, to keep outdoor rec on track during times of crisis, we really appreciate and we see the bipartisan cooperation from our regional legislators, and we deeply appreciate it, and I hope they know we're always here to support and as they need us when those moments to come together come as Oregonians. So thank you for being here. We have 2 more folks, and I'm going to pass it over to Cam Campman, who's the creative director at Annville Northwest with the Cow Creek Tribe.
How's everybody doing? I feel like the first thing I should comment on is, first of all, my name is Cam Campman. I'm the creative director for Annville Northwest, and we are a tribally owned business in Roseburg, and we're a creative agency. And to kind of add another angle to that, we're also acting as the DMO for the city of Roseburg. And for me, there are days when I go into work and I truly do have to pinch myself. Being a designer, but then also being a tribal member, and being able to work at a tribal business, but also having a client like the city of Roseburg. It's kind of that weird dream you have where you're living in the city where you get to decide the narrative or the messaging for the city you live in and the city you grew up in as a kid. And then also being able to put the visuals on top of that. I don't know that there's any better gig, really. And for me personally, my background was the snowboard industry as a designer. Before this, I was an in-house designer for K2 Sports and Ride Snowboards. And going into this gig specifically, I think as an agency, we kind of saw the DMO world through kind of a different lens, less of kind of a Chamber of Commerce vibe and more kind of aesthetics forward, thinking of tourism. I'm not going to say hype driven, but definitely bringing in aesthetics as being the foremost thing that we think about when we're pushing the little town of Roseburg. And growing up in the area, I certainly know the city has had its ups and downs. And I think being in a town where industry is shifting, you find yourself running into the same challenges that other larger cities have, like Detroit or places in Appalachia where industry is changing and the city is trying to figure out who do we want to be now and what are we known for? What are the things that we hang our hat on as heritage or the institutions of our city? And sometimes it can be challenging, but other times it leaves you with kind of a blank slate to invent yourself and what is it people are coming to our town for and how can we capitalize on that? And so, again, as a tribal member, super proud to be doing this work. It's the ultimate, and to be able to make stuff look cool through graphics, you couldn't ask for anything better. So, yeah, definitely proud. So, with that, if we could cue our first video, please. This is rad to have people just like push buttons for you, and you can just say, play my video. Cool. All right, well, that's our little intro. I know time is limited, but I'll try to blaze through this. As far as the latest, greatest for Experience Roseburg, the stuff that we're kind of vibing on right now, our new guides are in. And we got the new guides roughly about a month ago. And the reason why I put this as the first slide in the prezo is something we're super stoked on this year is the visitor guide has 6 different covers. And as we tackled the guide for this issue, what we didn't want to make is something that's a reference book that somebody's going to look something up in and then just throw it away. We wanted to elevate the guide to something where it's people get it, they feel it, they dig on the photography, they dig the layout, and it's going to be something that hopefully, if they don't at least keep it in their car for a while, it ends up on a coffee table, or they're actually trying to collect all 6 covers. And then also we had so many good cover contender photos this year, we really couldn't decide which one to pull the trigger on, and so we just decided to use all 6. But they turned out super fresh. If you get a chance, we did bring some boxes so you guys can check out the guides, but if you get a chance, please check them out. They're super dope this year. As far as new content that we're creating, we've been doing this now for about 5 years for the city of Roseburg, and something that we never really got on top of was a complete soup to nuts campaign, and something that's going to touch every media outlet, and it's something that we're putting most of our calorie burning behind. And in previous years, we had a lot of sub-campaigns, like stuff that only lived in YouTube or stuff that only lived in social. And so this year, as of about a month ago, we launched the Experience Your Next Adventure campaign. And a lot of the aesthetic for the brand of Experience Roseburg has kind of a throwbacky feel to it. And this campaign is no different. And the plan is it's going to be 3 individual spots. The first one was launched about a month ago, focusing on the wine industry. And every 4 months, we're going to launch a new piece. And When I say top to bottom, this is hitting billboards, we're doing streaming television, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, and we're doing a synchronized launch for each new piece. And we're also ramping up our spends when we do launch these pieces. And they turned out really good. I kind of like a campy throwback myself, and we're getting good feedback thus far. The other piece that we've been kind of given a lot of high fives about lately, we also have a video series that we run on YouTube. It's a monthly piece that usually ranges from about 3 to 5 minutes, focuses on usually some aspect that we're trying to push in our area. And we'd always kicked around Frisbee golf, or frolf as we like to call it, but never thought it would get that much traction. It was interesting though, we launched this latest video piece, and within the first 2 weeks it had 25,000 views. And I know that might not sound like a lot, but for lowly Roseburg, that is killing it. So, and compared to our other pieces, we felt like we were really speaking to a group of people, and a sport that's actually starting to get some momentum. So if you get a chance, check out the Experience Roseburg YouTube channel. Tons of videos on there, super good content, super proud of it, but you guys will be stoked on it. As far as other things happening in our region, with summer coming on, we have Music on the Half Shell, which is our weekly concert series set in the Stewart Park area. It's completely free. It's the band shell on the South Umpqua River. It's every Tuesday night, and it runs most of the summer. And I say again, it's free. Super romantic, right on the river. If you're looking for an excuse to have a picnic, it's a great chance to go out and dig on some really good music. So if you have a chance, check it out. And then we also have Graffiti Week running in the beginning of July, which is essentially a week-long series of show and shines and cruises that finally ends with the main cruise in the downtown Roseburg area. A lot of beautiful cars from all over the country. It's a pretty storied and well-known car cruise across the nation. And if you're into old cars and drooling over things that you'll never afford, I highly recommend it. So please check it. Umpqua Wineries is something we're always trying to push. And we have over 20 wineries in our region. And the main reason why I put this slide in here is when we first got the DMO contract with the city, the University of Oregon did a study on the 4 major wine regions in the state, with the Gorge, the Willamette Valley, the Umpqua Valley, and the Rogue Valley. And one of the things that really stuck in my mind is they gave a statistic of the 4 regions, the Umpqua Valley put out more wines that scored a 90 plus than the other regions. That's far out. And I don't know why we're not just singing that from the rooftops, but that's amazing. And for our small little region to be putting out such high quality wine, it's also the birthplace of Pinot to be grown domestically. And they also offered the most varietals than the other regions. So definitely something we're super proud of. Something that Experience Roseburg took on as a project of our own was the Downtown Mural Project. And this started about 3 years ago. And with our quarterly check-ins with the city, there was always talk to try to drive more traffic to our downtown area. And given our background, something that we always revert to is, well, how do we bring more art to the area? Or how can we aesthetically elevate the area? And so we kicked around the idea of murals, and except we kept coming back where, okay, who are our artists going to be? And, you know, we were feeling pressure, well, you should only use local artists. And knowing that there was a want from locals to do that, we researched it and found a handful of people we could go with. But then we thought, well, hold on, we got to go to our main goal, which is what's going to entice people to come to our downtown area. And so what we did is we curated a handful of artists that were really up and coming across the nation, but really peaking in social media, and artists that people are taking the time to go visit their murals, take a selfie, and just claim that of, oh, I have this person's piece on my phone. And it definitely took some coaxing with the city. But eventually, after 2 summers, we now have 6 murals in the downtown Roseburg area and a full walking tour with QRs on each mural where you can get the background, know who the artist is. And it's just kind of rad because these are all up-and-coming artists, and the two that you see in the slides here, one is Raymond Argumedo, and another one is a lady named Hannah Eady. Raymond now is doing a solo show at the LA Art Museum, and Hannah Eady just did a collab with Van Snowboarding. And it's just cool to see these people kind of blowing up, and then to know you have some of their art in your downtown area. And hopefully what that is just going to be a vector for people to get off of I-5, come dig some art, and while they're down there, they're going to grab a cup of coffee, they're going to get lunch, they're going to experience the downtown area through art. And so I really hope we bring a lot more aesthetic value to that area, but so far it seems to be working. And we have our lovely little visitor center that is located in the Anvil Northwest building, and we're right next to the post office downtown, and we have a full line of merch, and there's usually somebody there that can answer pretty much any question about the area. And that's my spiel. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Cam. And now we'll turn it over to every great thing that you've enjoyed here during your time here in commission. I want to thank TJ Holmes from one of the best DMOs in the state, Travel Medford, and we'll let TJ welcome you.
Could I interrupt you, Bob?
Yep.
Could I play the commercial spot that I skipped over? I forgot I have somebody pressing buttons for me. I completely skipped over the commercial. I am so sorry.
Well, it's your last day. What do you want to do?
Adventure awaits. What will you choose? Ah, yes, a day with friends. But what will you be doing? An excellent choice. Sampling wine at one of Roseburg's 23 local wineries makes for a great day. Roseburg has something for everyone. The only question is, what will you choose? Experience Roseburg. Experience your next adventure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, TJ, you ready?
Yes.
Great job welcoming everybody, and you and your team did a fabulous job bringing everybody into the Valley. So thank you for that, and over to you.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning. My name is TJ Holmes. I'm the Senior Vice President of Travel Medford, and I'd like to welcome you all to Medford, the heart of the Rogue. And I'd also like to thank you for acknowledging our collaborative spirit down here in Medford. It truly is a testament to our leadership, both from elected officials, starting with our Medford Mayor Randy Sparacino, to city staff with our city manager Brian Shotun, and then also in the private sector, especially with our chamber president Eli Matthews. So it takes a true collaborative spirit to build something like this at Rogue Credit Union Community Complex, also known as Rogue X. So it's a state-of-the-art facility, and we are excited that it's almost 5 months being open, what this can do to help drive economic impact through tourism here. And also, in front of you, I'm not going to get too far into agritourism today, but Harry and David is celebrating their 90th anniversary this year. You can't tell the whole story about tourism in our region without Harry and David, so you do have some truffles and moose munch there in front of you, too. Wanted to touch on some of the highlights here that's happening in Medford. So Medford has been collecting TLT for 49 years. Next year will be a 50th anniversary of that partnership between the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Medford to be able to collect TLT. But to really break it down over the last 10 years, I wanted to showcase what it looks like pre-COVID versus post-COVID for TLT, just because we've seen a tremendous growth down here in Medford. Jackson County does not collect a TLT. There's no county TLT. So the county numbers that you're seeing is all the cities that do collect TLT within Jackson County. So pre-COVID from 2014 to 2019, Medford's share of TLT has been $21 million in that range, and about 53% share of Jackson County. Post-COVID, that number's grown to 67% share Travel Medford has had in collecting TLT in that time. So I just really wanted to show the growth that's happened. $40 million over the last 10 years has come into Medford with TLT. 45% of that $40 million has come post-COVID from 2021 through 2023. So as you can see, that TLT growth is we're starting to move the needle a lot more down here as well. With that growth in TLT comes hotel development. Right now, currently we have just over 2,600 hotel rooms, 38 properties, and 270 short-term rentals. That number obviously varies month to month when they're available. But in the future, with that growth of TLT, you're starting to see more investment into our community. And it's because of facilities like this and the growth of tourism that you're starting to see that trend. So in the next 3 years, we have 6 new hotel properties that are planned to be built. Which will see a 25% increase in hotel supply, putting us over 3,300 hotel rooms in the next 3 years. So as you can see, that trend is obviously going in the right direction. One of the big projects, I mean, you're sitting in one that just opened. It's been a 40-year project in the making. Our city manager, Brian Shotun, shared some of that story with you earlier on the tour, but we've been talking a lot about what's next. What's that next project that's going to help drive economic impact to our community? Right now, COVID left a deficiency in conference and meeting space in our city. We lost our 2 properties that had significant space to meet. So right now we are going through a conference center feasibility study. That's been a great project with the City of Medford, with Travel Medford, and has been a 20-year goal on our 2040 Community Vision Task Force that has identified as a need for our community to fill that deficiency and to help improve our community on an economic improvement basis. So right now we're going through the study. I don't have any results to show you on that yet, but hopefully in the next month we'll have the full 3-phase study completed, looked at over a dozen sites of where that can go. So we don't have any findings yet, but know that that's in the works, and that public-private partnership with the city and with the Chamber and Travel Medford has helped push this forward. So we'll have some good findings to show here pretty soon. You can't talk about tourism without transportation, and having the airport in the Rogue Valley International Medford Airport here in our community is a huge asset to us and to bringing people into our community. Touching on a few things, the airport director, Amber Judd, and their business development manager, Mike Doyle, have done a great job over the last couple of years of really bringing in a lot of tourists into our area. Q1 of 2024, saw an increase of 10% in traveler volume over last year. So significant numbers, including spring break travel in March, was up 12% over last year. So our airport's being utilized, and we're also seeing some big things coming out as well. So we're adding a second flight with Alaska Airlines, both to Portland and LAX, starting in October. So you're starting to see that growth on a larger level as well. Our East Apron expansion, Bob talked about the fire recovery and wildfires here in Southern Oregon. This East Apron expansion can only hold, or right now it can only hold one very large tanker. This East Apron expansion that will be completed in June will be able to hold 3. So that will be significant increase in efficiency and response time for wildfire season as well. And then terminal expansion, which is a $180 million estimated impact here, or cost for this, will start next year. Multi-phase coming out, but we'll be adding some new gates and jetways, a second baggage claim, and then some expanded ticket counters and gate areas as well to expand our airport. So a lot of growth in the airport as well, being prepared for that hotel development growth as well. And sports tourism, this is one of our key pillars. I know a few of you touched on this already, but this is one of our key pillars, and it's a testament to Lithium Driveway Fields, to our city and our Parks and Rec department of seeing and having the vision of seeing this, how it can come to fruition and then impact our community. So the Sports ETA, the National Trade Association for Sports Tourism, reported back in April that sports tourism was a $52 billion direct travel spend in 2023. They saw an increase of 7% in sports travelers and over 73 million room nights dedicated to sports tourism in 2023. So for us, those are great numbers, and we're seeing the impact down here in Medford as well, and that continues to be a key pillar for us. Lithium Driveway Fields, that's what I mentioned there. That park opened in 2008. A lot of the hoteliers here in Medford can still talk about how that park single-handedly saved the tourism industry during the recession. Since then, we've seen a total economic impact of $160 million. This is a facility owned, operated, managed by the City of Medford and our Parks and Recreation Department. There's an investment in outdoor recreation, in sports tourism, in facility development, and that's what you're starting to see with that economic development and that growth right now. So just last year, the city reported almost $12 million economic impact, which I believe was their fourth best year. And Memorial Day weekend, we had our Rogue Memorial Challenge where there was 170 soccer teams here at that facility. 120 of those were outside of 50 miles. So we saw over 3,000 players here for that weekend tournament, which is going to be a huge economic boom to sports tourism in our community. And with the success of Lithium Driveway Fields, that's really been that blueprint of what was next in the facility that you're sitting in right now with Rogue X. This is what we're looking at as the indoor equivalent to Lithium Driveway Fields of what we can do in the shoulder season with the indoor sports, and also helps out with the aquatic side of a pool deficiency that we have, but then also the indoor event center space. So we don't, since it's only been open for 5 months, we don't have a lot of economic impact data to share with you today, but I can share with you that they have 46 special events planned or has been occurred so far in this facility for 2024, and they are about 3 months ahead of revenue projections while only being open for 5 months. So the city has done a fantastic job of opening this facility, maintaining it, managing it, and recruiting events to be here. And one of those events that we've had was a national cornhole tournament that we had in February. It was we've had 2 national tournaments here for cornhole, and with this facility, this world-class facility opening up, has really lent us the opportunity to attract larger events such as that. Puts on our resume that we can host these national tournaments, and I'm very excited to announce that in this facility in 2027, Medford will be on the international map by hosting the American Cornhole Organization World Championships. This is a partnership between the Southern Oregon Sports Commission, Travel Medford, the City of Medford, and the Parks and Recreation. That symbiotic relationship is so key, like we talked about, with that collaborative spirit, to be able to bring events. You can't have those events without a world-class facility like this. Now we can put a world-class event in our world-class facility. So that World Championships will be here. It's an 8-day event. We're estimating about $3 million economic impact for that 1 week in July 2027. And we will have international travelers coming here to compete in that event. So look forward to hopefully seeing you all down here in a few years as well to check that out. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry, TJ, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just was so excited about the championship. So to Bob, to TJ, I want to thank both of you for such incredible hospitality. It's been said by the commission, but for me to you, I just want to thank you. And Medford is such a leader in sports tourism, and to have that type of vision and collaboration is really inspiring. To Cam, thank you for being here today. Many have heard me say before, we are indeed fortunate to have the 9 tribes of Oregon and we have the Cow Creek tribe here. The tribes make a tremendous impact, not only to their communities, but to rural Oregon and the state. And to hear you so passionately speak about Experience Roseburg is very inspiring. So thank you. I understand why Commissioner Hill speaks so highly of you, so thank you to you as well. Commissioners, any questions or comments in regards to the presentations? David.
Not a question. I just want to, once again, as well, thank you for the time you've taken to be here today. I will say this, as far as Medford, I travel to Medford actually several times a year, and I've enjoyed my travels here. In fact, my wife and I, we've been members of 6 or 7 different wineries here. We do a lot of biking, hiking in the area here, etc. I want to say this about Roseburg, though, because I do spend a little time up in Roseburg, and I will say this. One thing about it is that from a community perspective, the business community there downtown, every time I stop in at one of the tasting rooms or bed and breakfast or whatever it is, they're always pushing out and trying to gather information and help us to get out to different wineries. In fact, they just don't tell us which wineries to go. They'll pick up the phone, make the phone call, and say, hey, David, Debbie, they're coming out. Can you do something special, whatever it is. So I love that effort that they're making with visitors coming in, just to help support the other businesses in the area. So thank you for all the work you do, and it's been a well-kept secret, but it's getting out.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Harish?
After seeing everything and watching this and spending a couple days here, I wish I lived in Medford. but California is the neighbor, but what are the other feeder markets for Medford?
Sorry, what was that question?
What are the feeder markets for the tourist that comes into Medford?
Yeah, we're seeing, for a while we saw Seattle as a great drive market for us. We're also seeing a lot more in Seattle, or I'm sorry, in Sacramento right now. Bay Area is looking good. And then as far as airport travel, Phoenix has been a huge market for us recently as well. But for a while, even Seattle was outnumbering our website visitors versus Medford local residents. And usually when you have your website going, your own DMA ends up being number one from all the people that are searching while they're there in market. But Seattle actually overtook Medford for our number one for a few years. But we're starting to see a lot more expansion in the Sacramento Bay Area, and then from the fly market as well into Phoenix.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, TJ, Cam, and Bob, for highlighting Southern Oregon and showing the opportunities that are ahead of us. And thank you for your passion and truly showcasing this beautiful region.
Just to echo what David said there, proud to be part of this region. Bob, what you've done with Dark Skies, the national recognition there is fantastic, and I see a lot of potential with that. Cam, every time he speaks, I just love his passion, what he's doing, and what he's done with Experience Roseburg. And TJ, you mentioned the short-term rentals. How is that? Do you see that impacting? I know that there's a lot of cities that put moratoriums on short-term rentals because it does take away from housing. Have you guys, do you know if that's an impact here, or do you see any issues with that becoming a problem?
Right now, we haven't seen that. There's a lot of, the national trend is kind of seeing some of those short-term rentals kind of going downward. Medford's actually seeing a lot more utilization out of our short-term rentals. Our supply hasn't dramatically increased for a bit, but it's kind of starting to slow a little bit as far as the amount of supply in entire properties. But we're seeing an increase in usage of our intermediaries and short-term rentals. And our hotel supply, or our hotel demand has also increased at the same time at almost about half the same rate. So we're seeing black numbers on both sides. So like that also sets a tone for the rest of our tourism development and our economic growth in our region.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is stakeholder partners and public statements. On Monday, May 20th, the commission meeting notice was posted to the commission meeting webpage. Notice was sent through our industry communications, and a link to the meeting agendas were posted. Last week, materials for today's public hearing were added, allowing an opportunity for partners and stakeholders to review materials ahead of time together today. Today's opportunity to hear from our stakeholders and partners is an invitation to our partners to provide us with information, updates, and constructive thoughts regarding Oregon's travel and tourism industry. I'd also like to remind everyone that a comment forum lives continually on our industry meeting page, should you like the opportunity to provide us with your thoughts and insights. We did receive 2 public comments ahead of this meeting, and commissioners, those comments have been provided to you, and they will become part of the public record. With today's meeting being held in person, we do have an opportunity for attendees to sign up and speak with us. We request that the remarks remain respectful and professional, and we ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes. And with that said, it looks like we have 3 people wanting to speak today, and the first is Samara. Samara, please join us up at the front. And forgive me, I should say Samara from Clackamas County Tourism.
Good morning. Everybody hear me all right? Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment. I'm Samara Phelps. I'm Executive Director for Oregon's Mountain Hood Territory, Clackamas County Tourism. And following Fire Preparedness Month in May, I'm here to share with you one of our programs supporting resilience in our local communities. After the Riverside Fire in 2020, as well as winter ice storms in 2021, were affected a large portion of our county, we looked at ways that we could contribute to our community's safety in the face of these natural disasters. We identified using the learnings from those responses that vacation rental properties were a vulnerability in our community. So we provided the opportunity to have vacation rentals get emergency preparedness supply kits. The information there is for our visitors to be able to shelter in place, and we call this our bucket project. And I too share a passion for props, Vice Chair, and have brought one of the buckets with me. This project was envisioned and brought to fruition by Ithaca Jansen on our team. She was unable to join today, but she did prepare these comments. So every time I say we, please see Ithaca Jansen and know that this could not have happened without her vision, her project management, and her relationship building. Because the Bucket Project is truly a collaborative effort. We worked with Clackamas County Disaster Management, our Regional Disaster Preparedness Office, Public Health, the county's GIS to create custom evacuation maps for the areas where vacation rentals are, and with Travel Oregon to provide state highway maps to ensure that evacuation information extended to wherever the visitor needed to go. This kit contains 72-hour survival and communication supplies for our visitors to shelter in place. The resources include a NOAA weather radio, food, water, and first aid, as well as an information packet. This is our second year distributing emergency kits to vacation rentals, and they are actually being distributed this week in Clackamas County, so folks are picking them up. Over that time, we've provided 405 buckets to 249 vacation rentals that serve over 2,000 visitors in case of emergency or a natural disaster. Clackamas County's Disaster Management Operations Coordinator, who was a partner in this project, Brenna Cruz, said, by equipping rental properties with emergency kits and evacuation maps, we have significantly improved the readiness of both residents and visitors. This project is not only enhancing individual preparedness, but it's also fostered a greater sense of community resilience. Additionally, the outpouring of gratitude from our vacation rental owners and managers who we worked with, many of whom personally were affected by evacuations and outages, especially in the rural portions of Mount Hood, are a testament to the need that this project filled. People want to do better. They need to have the resources and the information to be able to do it. We are excited for this project's ability to directly support the safety of our communities, including visitors and residents, to improve the visitor experience, and to strengthen our communication with our vacation rental partners as property managers and temporary hosts for our visitors and community. The Bucket Project demonstrates our commitment to stewarding a healthy, safe, and resilient destination for all. And I know this is a commitment shared by you as the Commission. So thank you for your work to support resilient communities throughout Oregon and the opportunity to share a small success from our destination. And if anyone would like to know what's inside the bucket or the packets, please come see me, as we do have them here for you to see today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samara. The next person wishing to speak is Lizzie Keenan from Experience Mount Hood and the Gorge about the Strategic Investment Fund.
Hello. Good morning, commissioners. For those who have not met me before, my name is Lizzie Keenan. I'm the regional lead for Experience Mount Hood and the Gorge, which serves as the RDMO for Mount Hood and the Columbia River Gorge. So I wanted to take some time this morning to share with you about because you make the decision on the RCTP program, where your monies have gone. And so if you're less familiar with the guidelines, one of the components of an RDMO is to deliver a grant program or a strategic investment fund. And so there was a pause for us to do that during some of the COVID years, but we were able to come back with serving up a strategic investment fund for our region this past spring. So we had a bucket of, there's a lot of buckets in our office. We had a bucket of $73,000 in our fund to deliver out. And so I just wanted to give you some highlights on what we were able to fund and so what your funds were able to support in our communities. So let's see, we opened it up in mid-February. It stayed open through mid-March, and then awards went out in April. We had 15 applications with total request of $261,000. After our review committee reviewed them all, we were able to award 8 projects and bumped up the fund a little bit. So we are awarding $73,500. Most of them are full funded, and then a couple are partial fundings. So to give you some fun insights on those projects, for many years, especially in our stakeholder surveys that Travel Oregon helps to run for the state, we've had a lot of feedback about restroom needs in our region. And so we have 3 restroom improvement projects that are coming through on this fund that is very exciting for us to support a very challenging need that we have. So one of those is at the Bridge of the Gods trailhead in Cascade Locks, the project is run by the Port of Cascade Locks. The Dalles Port, they are doing improvements to their public boat launch area, which does include restrooms as well. And one of the fun quotes is, when in their application was they needed the improvements to their public boat launch because the Dalles Chamber has done such a good job at promoting fishing to tourists in the region that now there's a lot of need to improve that space. And then finally, Forest Service in the Columbia River Gorge has had a lot of issues with graffiti in their bathrooms, so they have a very creative project to put murals inside of the bathrooms with the hope to deter some of that graffiti. So with this test project at the Sandy River Delta, my vision is that we will have a bathroom mural trail to offer in the future. So we'll start with one and see how that goes. Additionally, we are supporting a couple of events in the region. So one is the Gorge Impact Summit, which is a film festival. It launched last year for its first year as a one-day event in Hood River. It's in the fall, so it's shoulder season, which is great for us. And our funds are going to be supporting its ability to be a 2-day festival this year, so we can encourage overnight visitation through that. We are also funding the Troutdale Arts Festival with shuttle services. So that is a summer festival, which is high season for us, but offering up shuttle services to improve, it feeds into the car-free system that we are trying to create in our region. And so getting more folks to kind of park in larger parking lots and do kind of shuttle park and rides to the festival. We hope to see a lot of success from that. And then the other ones that didn't group as well together, but are still awesome projects, we've got Friends of the Gorge is expanding on their Gorge Towns to Trails project, which I know some commissioners who have heard about updates from this project over the years. Their next trail development is going to be from Mosier to the Dalles, and so our funding is helping their trail development specifically around community engagement and inclusivity, and so the money is going to go towards outreach to non-native English speaker communities in the Mosier and the Dalles area, and getting their engagement in that initial development process. We're funding Taste of the Gorge, which is a bi-state campaign that's going to happen this fall with Columbia Gorge Tourism Alliance and the DMOs on both sides of the state. So kind of we've taken learnings from what Portland has done with like their Ticket to Dine and their wine month, and going to do something like that in the Gorge. And then we're funding the Sandy Chamber of Commerce in some work that's actually building off of a program that was run by Travel Oregon and Mount Hood Territory earlier last year to help basically the communities along Highway 26 in that lower and mid part of Mount Hood come together and convene and collaborate and figure out how to not just be pass-through communities, which is very much what they are feeling that they are, and the data also shows that a lot of people, they might stop for gas, but then they go straight up to the mountain, and so really getting people to stop, stay, spend, eat in those different communities is where those funds will go. And so I think, I think that's it. Hopefully you'll come to our region for a commission meeting in the future, and we'll have success stories. I can take you on a tour of the bathrooms. It'll be good. So thank you very much.
Lizzie, thank you so much for your informative comments today. And the last person wishing to speak is Sue Densmore from Friends of Oregon Caves Chateau. Sue.
Got a stat today. I love, whoops. I love props. In case some of you have never been there, there is a note you can open up to see what we're talking about. I'm Sue Densmore. I'm the executive director of the Friends of the Oregon Caves and Chateau. Ooh, that's loud. And first of all, today I just want to also thank the Travel Oregon. You funded the writing of the historic furnishings plan, or the historic side of it, for the lodge. And we got done with it, and my author said, you know, this is really fun stuff in here, and maybe we should make a book. And so from the historic furnishings plan, we wrote a book. And thanks to David, reminded me that it would be fun. You might all like to have a copy. So and when I get done, I'll give you each a copy of it. And it talks about the history of the Oregon caves from 1874 to 2017. And the one thing that we found in doing this research is that when they built the chateau, they built it for people that wanted to travel in a car to a luxurious place, and few people could do it back in the 30s. And so it's so fun that this characterizes now a 90-year-old lodge that is still just as much fun, iconic, unusual as it was when it was built. And I think that's one of the kind of fun things you'll see in the book, is that it just continues to be what it is. And I want to say a moment about people like us and what we do. In looking at your mission and your vision, we are a welcoming destination where tourism drives economic prosperity, benefits the national environment, and celebrates rich and diverse cultures. Places like the Oregon Caves are your content. You need us to do what you do, to promote Oregon and say what Oregon's about. We need to keep having places like the Oregon Caves. Your mission talks about places that make Oregon, Oregon. We pretty much think that the Oregon Caves and the Chateau help make Oregon, Oregon. We did a webinar on May 9th, thanks to Bob Hackett, Tori Middlestat, David Gremmels, Colin Deverall from the National Park Conservation Association, Nicole Possert from Restore Oregon, and Megan Pugh from the Illinois Valley Chamber, with the idea that we are now in a pause in the restoration of the Chateau. As you know, I've been here month after month, and we now have an opportunity with Chuck Sams, head of the Park Service. Todd just spent some time with Chuck, at least Chuck shared that he had spent some time with you. And we see it's a moment in time where we really need to push hard to get this restoration over the hump. The Park Service will do their part. If the visitor people do their part, and then the Friends will do their part. We've created a public-private partnership, and I will give you a copy of this. Norm Smith from the Ford Family Foundation said, do a Venn diagram so you can show people, all the people that care. And I went, what in the hell is a Venn diagram? But I learned how to do it, and David saw my sketch yesterday. I did a hand sketch, which I thought was more fun, but to be more formal, we put it into a Venn diagram. So I'll give you a copy of this. I'm going to give you one right now so you can see what we're doing. The webinar got us statewide publicity, Oregonian. If you saw it, we got a lot of nice publicity. Our next step, we think, is national publicity. We feel like with Chuck Sams where he is, with National Park Conservation Association, the many people that you see in our public-private partnership opportunity here, we have the National Trust for Historic Preservation, we have Restore Oregon, all on board to say, how can we help? And so our ask to you today, we always have one, is we've got the three pillars, federal, kind of the political, congressional, and the philanthropic. We want everyone to feel that this is a priority for Oregon. When our congressmen say, how do you feel about this in Oregon? And David was just there, you all were just there, we've been there. They've heard it from us. They know that it's important. So we want Travel Oregon to be able to say that as well. It is a priority for Oregon. So we're just asking that you can say that. We also want to say that we are something that isn't Portland. That's an awkward way to say it, but so much of Oregon is not there, and we think this is a really strong value to southwestern Oregon. Clear out in Cave Junction. It's very different than Travel Medford, although Travel Medford and the airport could not be more wonderful. Visit Grants Pass. Torrey is fantastic. But we are way out in a small area that really can use the economic value of the monument and the chateau. So it's a little different than probably anything you all are doing. I don't know. I drive up there and it's just so remarkable that I think I wish everyone could be there. So that's important. We, again, are looking at probably needing to come up with 20 to 30 million on the philanthropic side of this so that Park Service will match it. And we also are looking at individual donors and foundations and anyone else that can help us fill out our Venn diagram. I know you probably have questions. I know I only have 3 minutes. You've got a busy agenda, and I come often, so I'm not going to talk anymore, but if you want any more information, I'll be here. And I wanted to give Jen a Viewmaster. As you know, I think you've all, did you get one? I don't know if I gave you one. I think other members got a Viewmaster. The Viewmaster was invented at the Oregon Caves. And so this is a fun, I'll get you one. I'm sorry, I just brought one today. All right, and I want to give you your book. What?
I said I know you'll be back.
I'll be back, I know. And thank you for being patient with us. And we've got a big lift, but we want to do it for the state of Oregon and for all of you. And just, we're doing our part if you can do your part. And thank you.
Sue, thank you for your comments and for the gifts. Really appreciate it. I do want to make mention, I think I see former Commissioner Dawn Anway sitting in the back of the room. So hello, Dawn. Glad you're here today. Let's give Dawn a round of applause for the contribution that he made for 8 years on this commission. So thank you, Dawn. The next item on the agenda is commission business. So I'd like to confirm that everyone has received and had a chance to review their commission packet, including the financials that were posted to the meeting page. Yes. Okay. With that said, before we hear the financial update from Vice Chair Willits, I would like to acknowledge several recent accomplishments that the Travel Oregon team, specifically the finance and accounting team, have obtained. And I asked Vice Chair Willits if he would report out the good news.
Thank you, Chair DeNovo. And stay with me because this is some great information that's overlooked in many circles, and it gives us the ability to do what we do on a daily basis with a strong financial team behind us. Our group achieved fiscal year 23 Gold Star for financial reporting from the State of Oregon CFO. The Gold Star is the highest award the state gives agencies. They're equivalent to nationally recognized GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and recognizes accurate, complete, and timely financial reporting. They specifically cite our excellence in achieving statewide accounting goals and overall financial reporting. In addition, fiscal year 23 Gold Star for PERS. This is awarded to agencies that submit 100% of their agency's payroll and PERS payments and reports on time. No easy feat. Another one, fiscal year 22 and 23, Chief Financial Office Accounts Receivable Honor Roll Certificate. The Honor Roll Certificate is awarded to state agencies that submit timely and accurate AR report, an important part of meeting statewide efforts to improve accounts receivable management and critical to the legislative fiscal publication of the report of liquidated and delinquent accounts receivable and to the Chief Financial Office Accounts Receivable Management Report and the statewide write-off, abated and canceled certification report, which are all submitted to Legislative Assembly each year. 2021 and through 2023 biennial financial review. The review conducted by Moss Adams in accordance with the requirements of the Secretary of State's Audit Division was clean and had no exceptions. I feel it is important to call out these accomplishments because without the diligence of the team working tirelessly to keep finances and systems running smoothly, our wonderful campaigns, grants, welcome centers, and good works happening in communities around this state does not happen. On to our financials. I'd like to thank, well, maybe we should just give a round of applause for Kathleen and team there. I'd like to thank Chair DeNovo, Commissioners Pendleton and Stevenson, Todd and Kathleen for reviewing financials with me prior to this meeting. The fiscal year-to-date financials for fiscal year 24 were included in our commission materials and have been posted to the industry site. Looking at current fiscal year-to-date as updated during the financials call April of this year and May 29th. Through May, we have received $37.8 million in transient lodging tax, or 86.4% of the current $43.7 million budget. Year over year, TLT is down about 0.1%, almost exactly the same as compared to the same time frame in fiscal year 23. We have seen improvement as the fiscal year progresses. For example, Q1 of this fiscal year was down 7% compared to prior fiscal year, and we are continuing to closely monitor the TLT. Note that the TLT funds we receive are based on the Oregon Department of Revenue's timing and processing of the tax returns, and that the full fiscal year TLT will be booked by the end of July. On a positive note, compared to fiscal year 2019, which is a bellwether for us, TLT is up 22% after adjusting for the change in tax rate. Todd, do you have anything to add to that?
You know, the one comment that I would add, and thank you, Greg, for calling out the performance of Kathleen and the entire finance and accounting team. It often, you know, we often speak to the awards that we receive in terms of our advertising campaigns and our sales efforts and the like, but it truly is the foundation upon which our work is done, and it's certainly something that the legislature, the Legislative Fiscal Office, the Governor's Office take very seriously and should serve as a strong signal to you on the Oregon Tourism Commission about the financial acumen that the team possesses and therefore the rigor that is brought to that work. Related to that, the one comment I want to make, and I'll talk about it a little bit further when I talk about the budget modification coming up, but one of the things that Kathleen has been incredibly diligent upon over the last year or so has been working with our financial institutions to ensure that our revenues are retained in interest-bearing accounts. And it would seem fairly straightforward for each of us that have our checking and savings accounts. They all have some level of interest-bearing. Kathleen has been diligent in working with our financial institution to ensure that indeed is happening for Travel Oregon's funds, and which is not always an automatic for public agencies, but it does apply to us as Travel Oregon and the way we're set up as a semi-independent agency. Therefore, we are certainly eligible for those accounts. And what it means for Travel Oregon, what it means for this industry, is that over the course of this biennium, we are forecasting $1.8 million in interest income that we would not have normally received. And again, that's kudos to Kathleen's diligence in this work.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions related to this discussion? Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Willits. With that, we will move on to approval of the minutes. So commissioners were sent the draft December 2023 and March 2024 minutes. The commission meeting minutes, they were received via email on May 20th. Are there any questions regarding those two documents? Okay, if there are no questions, I will take a motion for approval.
So moved. Approve the minutes.
I have a motion from Harish. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Thank you, Scott. We have a motion and a second to approve the December 23 and March 24 minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the approval of commission governance documents. So commissioners, at our March meeting, we started the approval process to formalize commission processes documenting and establishing a library available for future commissions to utilize. This work has been ongoing, and in March, we approved a role description for the CEO Evaluation Committee and a role description for the Commission Financial Committee. Since then, we've been working on some additional documents which have been shared with the Commission for review ahead of today's meeting. A draft role description of the CEO Emergency Succession Plan. As a reminder, Commissioners, this work began over a year ago with our previous chair, Vice Chair Boyles, Todd, and myself. And I am happy to report that we have made changes to that document with the review of Commissioner Pendleton and Stevenson. The Department of Justice has reviewed it, and so we're very pleased with the work in that space. For those of you who are wondering what is the CEO Emergency Succession Plan, that is a document intended to guide the Commission if the CEO were to have an unexpected short-term absence. For example, if the CEO got into an accident. So this plan is really intended to help the Commission formalize and have a process in place. So I thank the commissioners involved. The second item was the role description for the Leadership Nominating Committee. And that work basically guides us to identify commissioners who are interested in serving in a leadership capacity, and the nominating committee is appointed to select the upcoming slate of officers. I made a commitment to Chair Boyles a year ago in June to have all of these documents finalized, and I'm excited that we are here today. I think the documents are better than they were a year ago. So again, I thank the group that has been working so diligently on that, and I would love a motion to approve these documents.
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Commission Leadership Nominating Committee document and the CEO Emergency Succession Plan. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I am going to ask for a round of applause for those documents being completed. Vice Chair Willits?
When she says that Chair Boyle started this process, he started the process with good intention and good ideas. The heavy lifting was Lucinda's work here. Commissioner Pendleton, Commissioner Stevenson, and myself served on to assist with this process, but the heavy lifting was Lucinda, and you deserve the credit for the hard work on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Willits. Appreciate that. Commissioner Pendleton?
I would also like to say thank you for the leadership that you provided. I know you put up with a few phone calls from me, and every step of the way you stepped up to the plate and you met the challenge. So thank you for your leadership as chair. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Speaking of nominating committee, a nominating committee is appointed annually to deliberate and propose a slate of officers to serve as the next chair and vice chair. I have asked Commissioners Pendleton and Commissioners Gremmels to serve on the nominating committee and to propose the slate of officers for the coming leadership team. For the coming year's leadership team. So Commissioners Pendleton and Gremmels will use the new document that we've just approved and will engage current members to understand their interest in serving now or in the future, and will provide us with a report in September at our next commission meeting. So are there any comments, Commissioners, in regards to that? No? Okay, great, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the RFP decision on the RCTP in the OWCLP-TPP. It doesn't get any easier, even though I've said it many times. Commissioners, yesterday we did have the opportunity to hear about this program, and we were walked through the entire process and ultimate recommendations, and I would just like to share my heartfelt appreciation to the entire review committee for the time, energy, and thoughtful consideration they provided. I'd now like to ask Carrie and Kevney to provide us with a high-level overview of those recommendations ahead of us taking action here today.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to thank you for the time yesterday to go over the RFP Committee's recommendations for the Oregon Wine Country License Plate Tourism Promotion Program, the longest acronym that we employ at Travel Oregon, as well as the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program. So yesterday, we had an opportunity to kind of provide an overview of each RFP application and strengths and opportunities contained within, and then also provide a recommendation for designation, at least from the RFP Committee's perspective. I'll just dive in there to remind everyone what those recommendations are. We received 2 specific applications for, proposals for the Oregon Wine Country License Plate Tourism Promotion Program, the first of which being from Travel Salem, and second from Washington County Visitors Association. The RFP Review Committee is recommending an 8-year designation comprised of 4 2-year contracts, conditioned on a midpoint review by the OTC for both those organizations. Moving on to the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program, in terms of the committee's recommendations for Southern Oregon, Travel Southern Oregon, the Oregon Coast Visitors Association, Eastern Oregon Visitors Association, Visit Central Oregon, and Travel Portland. The RFP Review Committee is recommending designation of an 8-year designation comprised of 4 2-year contracts, conditional on a midpoint review by the Oregon Tourism. So the same language employed with the Wine Country License Plate Program. For the Willamette Valley and the Willamette Valley Visitors Association, the Review Committee is recommending a 1-year conditional contract contingent upon representing a plan and staff plan. And then following that, an up to 7-year designation following OTC review with a midpoint assessment also by the Commission. For the Mount Hood and Columbia River Gorge region, and both applicants within that region, we are requesting more time to develop more thorough insights to make recommendations for those decisions. So with that, I'd like to thank you again for the time yesterday, and thank everyone involved in the process and everyone that submitted proposals. It's very much appreciated, and it was very high quality caliber work that was presented. So with that, I'll hand it back to you all for your consideration.
Commissioners, do we have any comments or questions? Okay, if there are no comments or questions, Scott, I'm sorry, forgive me.
Oh, no, not at all. And Harry, it's probably me. When you said the same language was applied for the Wine Country License Plate recommendation and the 7 RCTP, it's not exactly the same, though, is it? It's 2 4-year terms versus 4 2-year terms?
No, it is the same language, yeah. So
okay.
The way it reads is an 8-year designation comprised of 4 2-year contracts, conditional on a midpoint review by the OTC.
And that's true of the Wine Country License Plates also, or does that
Correct.
2 4-year contracts?
It's the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Vice Chair Willits? No questions? Okay. If there are no additional questions, I will take a motion for approval of the outlined recommendations.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The RCTP Regional Oregon Wine Country License Plate Tourism Promotion Program designations have been approved. Thank you, Commissioners. Congratulations to the team for running an effective process. Earlier statements regarding the diligence of our finance and accounting team were acknowledged, and support the close work that Todd and the team do to ensure the agency's budgets reflect the realities of tourism economic impacts have to Oregon and the U.S. As noted during every commission meeting, we receive monthly financial updates from Todd as he's watching real-time impacts and weighing future travel and financial predictions. I am grateful for this thoroughness and transparency, and I'd now like to ask Todd to walk us through a high-level budget update of the proposed 23-25 budget.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chair DeNovo, and Sarah, if you can drive for me. I'm going to be incredibly brief, and I don't want that to be in any way misconstrued as glossing over something as important as our budget, but rather to be evidence of how exhaustive we've been in, I think, sharing this information out with the Commission. We've been tracking this. We've been reporting out regularly. We have monthly financial reports with our Finance Committee. We shared information during the Governor's Conference when we were anticipating coming to you at this meeting with the budget modification. So we were giving you kind of a preliminary, I guess I will say a preliminary peek into what we were anticipating in terms of a budget modification and how I think we were well prepared, well situated for the softness in the revenue that we have seen so far this year. But like I said, in glossing it over, I do want to make sure that it's not in any way seen as, in terms of moving expeditiously, I don't want it to be seen as glossing over something as important as the budget, but rather evidence of how I think exhaustive we've been in sharing this information out with the Commission. We also spent a great deal of time yesterday going over this, so I am going to move very quickly through this. This is the current adopted budget. By the way, this information was also shared on our website last week in advance of this meeting and in preparation for the public hearing that needs to be held in advance of our adopting and modifying this budget. So this is our the current budget as originally proposed. Next slide, please. I also want to share with you, at the request of our Legislative Fiscal Office, that this is the budget for the Wine Country License Plate Program for the 23-25 biennium. It's roughly $820,000, and those dollars are split by statute 50-50, with half the money going into the matching grant program and half of the money going into the tourism promotion program. Next slide, please. What's driving this budget modification is the fact that TLT is anticipated to come in softer than we'd anticipated for the 23-25 biennium. At this time, we're projecting to be down roughly 7.5%. As its Vice Chair Willits noted in his financial report, we are currently 0.1% below where we were last year. But keeping in mind, we started this fiscal year 7% below where we were the prior year. So these lines are beginning to converge. They will eventually cross. We're anticipating growth in the second year of this biennium. So I bring this to you, this budget modification to you, with a pretty solid level of confidence, in terms of where we're going to be. But we've also made sure that we've put some significant sideboards on this budget modification, which I'll touch on in just a moment. But we are forecasting a downturn in the transient lodging tax revenue of about 7.5%. So this is the proposed budget with the proposed modifications. And just speaking to the high points, we're looking at being down. That 7.5% for the biennium is about $6.8 million. And at a very high level, 2.7 million of that 6.8 million is being addressed through what I would refer to as budget offsets. In other words, we have formulaic elements of our budget that are spelled out in statute, 20% going to the RCTP, 10% going into the competitive grant program, and our rigor in setting aside 5% of our operating budget, our TLT budget, in our operating reserve fund. Because we're going to receive less revenue than originally budgeted for, those dollars can be decreased. The dollars being budgeted for RCTP, for the competitive grants, and for the grant program, or for the reserve. So that's 2.7 million of the 6.8 million will be addressed through those budget offsets. Roughly $750,000 is being addressed through our postponing some recruitment that we had anticipated to do during this biennium. Those positions will be added back as revenue recovers. There's $2.3 million that's also being addressed through other sources. I already referenced the increase in the interest income. Because of Kathleen's work, we'd anticipated receiving $500,000 each year of the biennium, $1 million for the biennium. We've increased that to $1.8 million based on how revenues the interest revenues are coming in. The additional piece of this is the commission established many years ago a fund referred to as the Immediate Opportunity Fund, and that has roughly $1.9 million in it. $500,000 of that is being used for the Collaborative Regional Investment Program, which is part of our Regional Cooperative Tourism Program that Harry and Kate manage on behalf of Travel Oregon. The other $1.4 million is available to us, and I'm proposing through this budget modification be invested in helping address the shortfall. The remaining $1 million of that $6.8 million is the only part that's touching on programs. And $530,000 of that $1 million is being addressed through basically cutting unencumbered rollover funds from previous bienniums. So less than really $500,000 in program impacts. And I applaud the commission for their vision. I'll go back to commissioners that were there in 2003 and 4 when we first set up the reserve fund, which, by the way, we are not touching. Through this budget modification that I'm proposing to you, we are not touching that reserve fund. And the reason is because, as I mentioned, we're anticipating growth in the second year. If for any reason that growth does not materialize, I want to make sure that we have that as our safety net. And because we've been able to make these other adjustments through offsets and additional revenue and such without really impacting programs. So for that reason, I bring you what I consider a very conservative revenue forecast with some very modest adjustments to programs and staffing, and the bulk of it being able to be addressed through other sources and offsets. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Oh, final slide. The Legislative Fiscal Office asks that we always, when sharing our budgets with you as the commission and obviously with the public, that we also present that budget using state budget classification codes. This is how it would appear. But the budget I am asking you to adopt is the donut chart that you saw on the slide immediately previous to this. But this is how it would roll into state budget classification codes. With that, Chair DeNovo, I'll turn it back over to you.
Todd, forgive me, and I might be confusing things with my city council hat on, but because we're making a budget modification, do I need to open up a public hearing?
That's correct.
Okay, so I will now open up the public hearing for modification of the 2023-25 biennial budget. We did not receive any comments in regards to it, so I will now close the public hearing. And if there are no questions, I will take a motion for approval of the 2023-2025 budget modification.
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to adjust the 2023-2025 biennial budget to $90,773,700. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The budget modification adjusting Travel Oregon's 2023-2025 biennial budget has been approved. And with that said, Todd, I'd love to take a break, so I will ask that we take a 7-minute break. Thank you.
give us a big whistle.
Hey, commissioners, can I call you back to the table? Commissioner Youngblood, would you please sit down?
All right, we are back, and we are going to move into the reports, updates, and discussions portion of our agenda. Commissioners, I love to just use the opportunity at the onset at each meeting to remind you why we do this. I know it may seem incredibly self-evident, but I think it's worth noting that we at Travel Oregon take our accountability to this commission very seriously. And the commission has the stated authority in statute to be the body to approve the plan, the body to approve the budget. And when that plan is approved, you know, it obviously is far more than just words on a page for us and a report on a shelf. It becomes what drives us and how we map out our KPIs. And you'll hear one of those reports a little bit later today. We're kind of doing an end of this fiscal year revisit of where we are. It's a little different approach to bringing that kind of accountability to the commission. But again, I say that with both great pride and great humility, because so proud of the work that this team does every day, but also incredibly humbled by the level of confidence and trust that you put in myself and you put in this team to carry out the work, to carry out the plan, and to implement the budget and make those investments that you trust us to do. So with that, our first report out today is being brought to us by Katie Clare, who is our Director of Brand Services, and also by Mo Sheriff Dean, who's showing off his technical skills by coming in virtually. So he's supposed to be showing up via Zoom. That's the rumor. I don't see his face on the screen. There he is. All right. So we've got Mo joining us. Mo is our Director of Integrated Marketing. They will join us. They will walk us through the latest information on how the Travel Oregon with Travel Oregon campaign is currently performing. So Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you, I believe, initially. All right. Thanks, Katie.
I'm Katie Clare. I'm Director of Brand Services at Travel Oregon. I'm going to take a quick reflection on our winter and spring pulses of our Travel Oregon with Travel Oregon campaign. You'll hear me call it TOTO. I can't help it at this point. It's its abbreviation. So we'll talk about TOTO, and then we'll also take a quick look ahead. And then I'll turn it over to Mo, and Mo is going to dive into some of our stewardship and geo-targeted advertising efforts that we're going to be implementing as we head into the busy summer season. So I was taking my pacing from Todd, cues from Todd earlier, so I might go a little bit faster through some things you've already seen. So just as a reminder, this is our campaign structure and rollout. We launched our Always On advertising campaign last August 1st, and we've been consistently in market since then. We've had a variety of different marketing tactics that have supported different advertising needs and goals throughout the year. And so this is just a quick flighting overview, and you'll see that Always On display in SEO at the bottom. Our winter campaign was focused on digital executions that drove conversions, engaged traffic, and return on advertising spend, ROAS, which we worked with our online travel agency partners to drive. Those were our primary KPIs, and that was really with an emphasis of economic impact during that January through early March shoulder season. A few of the big wins that we'd like to share, and some of these might seem really subtle, but they've been really important to our team, and we were able to accomplish through media tactics that we have been tweaking and adjusting that we've had through our always-on work. So we shared some of the specific details at our March Commission meeting, and I have final results here. So our guide orders were 926% above goal. This is extremely important to us because we know the economic impact that every single guide order brings. We were able to deliver over $18 million of ROAS, that return on advertising spend, with our online travel agency partners. This number is hotel spend only. Another adjustment that we've made is we just had consistent reporting from our online travel agency partners, so each season we're able to see consistent campaign over campaign numbers. We're, as Michael dove into in a lot of detail in March, we were able to drive 367,000 plus engaged sessions to TravelOregon.com. Those were through some media optimizations with our native our native advertising partners like Nativo, and adjustments we made throughout that buy. And then this one's really exciting for our team. We were up year to date, year over year, 66% in all sessions to TravelOregon.com. And January and February had some of our highest traffic months ever to TravelOregon.com. So that's really significant for us, especially just knowing some of the seasonality challenges that we have. All right, so spring. So this spring, we've been featuring our office's creative and then also our regional content that we've had as part of this always-on work. We actually are featuring Southern Oregon region this spring. So right now, if you're on Instagram or TikTok or other, you can see some beautiful content about volunteerism opportunities with the Siskiyou Mountain Club and others that were recommendations from Bob and the team with Travel Southern Oregon. So please make sure you check out some of that beautiful content. I don't have it today, but that's the best part of this work. So we are really focusing on our campaign driving awareness, engagement, and bookings. You can see we had about $763,000 of paid media in the winter pulse, and you'll see that this is drastically kicked up as we head into spring because we really want to capture that travel planning and drive that traffic to TravelOregon.com for itineraries and different ideas. So this is just a beautiful media flow chart. If we have nice shading, we like to show it off. Something that's important that we're seeing is some of our mid-campaign results. That line that you're seeing down the middle of the screen, if you're able to, shows when we're pulling some mid-campaign report information. We had a staggered launch based off of different tactics, so you'll see audio is a little bit later, but that we're excited for some opportunities we're having there. But we have different key performance indicators and different goals at different times of the year. In the fall, for instance, and in the summer with launch, a really big push that we had was awareness. We, of course, are always driving traffic as well, but we've shifted towards really driving traffic to TravelOregon.com and conversions for the spring. We're able to do that because we've had that foundation layering of the creative and brand. And what we've seen to date at this mid-campaign is we've had over 526,000 site sessions with an average bounce rate of just 54%, which is really exciting for us. And again, is being done because we've been able to optimize media consistently. This is I'm going to read this here so I don't mess it up. This is 75% of all sessions that we were able to see from our Anthem campaign and is a smaller portion of the budget. So what we're seeing here is just a lot of efficiencies that we're able to drive in the campaigns. Let me make sure I get all this right. Another kind of subtle but big win for us is that we've implemented what we're calling an instant form on the Meta platforms. Those are things like Facebook. And we're allowing people to sign up for our e-newsletter on platform. So what that does is that removes 3 clicks that people have to take from seeing the encouragement to get the e-newsletter to actually signing up for it. So what that has done is that has significantly dropped our cost per lead, which again is really exciting for us. That's a huge metric for us, and part of those small but consistent optimizations that we're able to make by having a campaign that's always on. So it's really exciting. We're up to, this might be most exciting for Brian in the audience, but we're looking at an average of $1.66 per sign up, with $1.66, which is huge. Like, it's a really big deal to us. So and I hope it's a big deal to you. We'll have a much more detailed report in our the strategic plan progress report, and then can share more information. But at the end, I'm always happy to answer whatever questions come up about this work. But it's going well. Okay, so what's next? We're looking towards the end of the fiscal year and the end of this first year of Travel Oregon with Travel Oregon, and taking a step back to reflect on what's worked and how do we need to adjust this campaign to continue to reach our goals within our 10-year strategic vision. Before we move on, I just have to say an enormous thank you to the team that you might not always see here, but I think our brand stewardship team, I feel really privileged to work with every single member of the team. They are absolutely the best of the business, and have a core team that works really hard on these campaigns. Jen Anderson, Amy, Mark, Ariana, Kelda, Wade, Gabriella, Michael, Mo, and of course Kevin. They are doing incredible work, and it is really, really incredible to work with every single one of them, and I feel really lucky. So we're going to keep moving forward, no rest for the weary, and we're going to take a quick look at what's coming up for the next fiscal year. And this is, like I said, just going to be a strategic overview, and again, happy to dive into more specifics as we have questions. So we really took a big step back and have been working with our team at Wieden+Kennedy to go, what is the foundation and what is the core essence that we need to preserve and continue forward with Travel Oregon to allow us to be flexible and nimble in market, all while having the same recognizable tone, look, and feel. And that's positioning Travel Oregon as an indispensable resource for guiding travelers through our Northwest Wonderland. What we're taking a look at is what is the work that we've done to allow us to move forward into new tactics that allow us to stay fresh in market and accomplish new goals. So we really established our brand with sidekicks and guides as a lead creative driving messaging. The sidekicks have been incredibly important and are still going to be part of our work because they allow us to be recognizable, again, in market, associating the content with this brand campaign. But sidekicks are also, we're finding and considering and nuancing their role. They're still going to be in the creative, like I said, but we're also recognizing how can we let real Oregonians take the lead to bring more humanity and truth to the campaign. Our storytelling will be rooted in the perspectives and insights of real Oregonians. We're shining a light on Oregon's character. So that's what we were doing this year, and this is, again, it's really subtle, but this is what we're using as the foundation to brief our creative, is really leaning into the driving pride and place. You'll see this with some of the work that I'm talking about with our first pulse in just a moment, but this is just elevating the people, places, and spaces that Oregonians are most proud of, all while welcoming visitors. And then one of the really important tenets that we've had with the Toto campaign has been showing the real Oregon. That is continuing. We were evolving from our animated only slightly exaggerated campaign. Then we had some stop motion work. So bringing real Oregon back into the creative was something that we really pushed with Travel Oregon and Travel Oregon. And now something that our best work has and we're focusing on to really define is feeling the real Oregon. So when you have creative that speaks and moves with you, it has the feeling and the connection. And that's something that we believe this work has had, but is a focus that we're looking at within the creative briefing. All right, so what does that mean for the work? So really how we're focusing on this year with Travel Oregon is helping travelers see for themselves a side of Oregon they would never see by themselves. This is just our grounding positioning. Our flow for the year, this is a general overview, is supporting leisure domestic travel to Portland in the late summer and fall. moving into Bounty Culinary for a strong push for conversions, moving into Bounty and Culinary for a strong push this fall. Then we'll be moving into focusing on conversions and bookings for the winter, and then focusing on responsible recreation during the spring. I just want to make sure that I'm explicitly clear throughout this that while we have a point of view and a focus for each of these pulses, we will absolutely be talking about each region of the state and pushing a wide variety of content and niches during each one of these. But to be an effective marketer, you have to have a strong and clear point of view. And so we use these as kind of grounding pillars that help us understand this. And I think you'll see really well with Mo's presentation at the end of this how some of our always-on work allows us to speak in really targeted, specific ways to things like areas that might be experiencing overuse during the summer or other. I think that's it. So right now, I'm going to hop in. I'm going to walk you through some of our strategy and direction for our first pulse, which is focused on Portland. We've worked really tightly with the Travel Portland team, in particular, Greg Newland, Ajay Day, Tin Bui. They have been incredible partners, making sure that we get the strategy right so the creative is reflective of a place that allows us to build collectively as a tourism industry. And so that work has been really tight, and I hope you see that it's reflective of the recommendations from the governor's task force that we've been working on as Travel Oregon, and then also will support some of the economic need that the Travel Portland team laid out very well in our December commission meeting. So with that, we need to have a point of view on Portland, a point of view on today's Portland. To reset the narrative, we need to take a fresh take on what makes this place this place. Born from the unwavering spirit that is behind the city's past and future success, a spirit of fearlessness, experimentation, and imagination that has always made Portland what it is. Portland is the place to try new things. It's why sneakerheads start coffee shops. It's why a dog park, restaurant, rooftop, concert hall gets to exist and why people get to enjoy it. And this place is fertile soil for whatever ideas its people want to see in the world. Sometimes they work, sometimes they fail, but every day we wake up ready and willing to try something new. So strategic point of view influences the creative, and this is also the basis for how you'll see us telling stories throughout this upcoming year. In Portland, people have the space, support, and guts to go for it, so they do. That means there's always something new to see or some new action to get in on. So if you're looking for new and unique experience, which roughly 50% of travelers are, there's no better place than Portland. So that's the direction. And I have more to reveal, but not quite ready to reveal. But what we're really focusing on, and again, like this is the really critical foundation for our work and how we define our creative, is we're focusing on our tone. It's welcoming, it's proud. It's true to Portland, and that's true to Oregon. And everything we do should make people feel proud to live there and travelers excited to go. So we're really focusing on that, and I can't wait to show you the final work and big reveal that, of course, is coming, but we're in process with it right now. I just want to also just share, again, it's not just on the creative that we're working really tightly with the Travel Portland team, it's also through our media strategy, because we feel extremely strong that just because you build it doesn't mean people will see it. You have to have a really great paid strategy. So we've been working with, again, with Greg and Ajay's team and the team at Industry, which is their advertising agency, to create a collaborative and supportive media plan that's not cannibalistic. So you can see here where we're going to be focusing on awareness and consideration that marries really well with when Travel Portland's consumer domestic advertising campaign is in market, and we're working together collaboratively on online travel agency partners and others. So while they're focused on really being driving awareness in market right now, throughout the summer they'll be shifting to different media tactics, and then when our message comes into market, probably September or so, you're going to be seeing a complementary awareness push that drives into conversions. So with that, I'm going to stay up here, but I'm going to finish my portion of the campaign, and then we'll do questions at the end. And I'm going to turn it over to Mo Sheriff Dean.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, commissioners. Welcome to the commission, Commissioner Rowe. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mo Sheriff Dean, and I have the honor and privilege of being Travel Oregon's Director of Integrated Marketing. I am really sorry I can't be with you in Medford today. The weather in Clackamas is not great, so I'd rather be in Medford, but I have an unfortunate family conflict this morning. So here I am on Zoom, and hopefully I can get this to work okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we use our channels to manage visitor flows at high-use destinations and share know before you go messaging with visitors so that they can have a better experience and be prepared. As you all know, Oregon is a popular destination, and in the very busy summertime, it is important to manage capacity in certain places to make sure people are prepared for what to expect so that we are not putting undue pressure on infrastructure or the natural environment. So let me share a screen. Does that look good? Okay. I'm going to assume it looks good. Okay, so this is not necessarily a new program, but has been one we've been evolving, and it's been a work in progress for about 7 to 10 years. If you think back to the early 2010s, your Instagram feed probably looked a lot like this. First there was a huge spike in Oregon's population, and at the same time, this visual new platform called Instagram was just really taken off. And suddenly there was a huge spike in people going out to Oregon's most beautiful places at unprecedented numbers. From Smith Rock and Opal Creek to Silver Falls, the Blue Pool, Oneata Gorge, places with the most dramatic scenery in Oregon were slammed by record-breaking waves of people. And as more people who didn't know or didn't prepare appropriately went outdoors, unfortunately, deaths and accident numbers went up. And so this started the shift in how we started talking about high-use areas and how we share know before you go content with consumers. For example, on the right here, the 2 screenshots of the stories, you'll see how we slowly transitioned to crafting more winter content about high-use areas, or we started directing people to alternate destinations. On the left, of my left, is a screenshot of an internal messaging guideline we created for people who manage our social media, so that we weren't reinforcing bad behavior on our channels. For example, we started posting less about the Tamalich Blue Pool and started paying even more attention to leash laws and off-trail use, and just showing those photos so we don't reinforce that bad behavior. And this practice became even more the norm during the pandemic. Between safe travel directives, stay-home messaging, and wildfire information, 2020 was in many ways a milestone year for when it came to working on balancing visitor information with safety and dispersal messaging. And then one day, we received an urgent message from Craig Ackerman, the superintendent of Crater Lake. In 2020, Crater Lake was being hit by a double whammy of having unprecedented crowds and also a staff shortage due to the pandemic. People were doing really unsafe things like making their own trails, bringing floaties and other things to the lake, and potentially harming it environmentally negatively. And so he asked for tourism's help in getting this know before you go messaging out because of these crowds and unsafe behavior. And so what we did was we immediately deployed geo-targeted paid social messaging, which I will explain in a minute, emphasizing safety messaging and how the park was sharing this know before you go messaging. And immediately we saw an impact in behavior change. Superintendent Ackerman went on OPB that summer and talked about how the messaging from tourism partners, together with the efforts on the ground, made an immediate impact in behavior with visitors at the park. And you'll see the quote here and the source. I will move on to the next. And so this is what led to the formalized program of geo-targeted messaging during the summer. The campaign has 2 goals. 1, to disperse visitors from popular high-use areas, and 2, to promote safe travel, know before you go messaging and positive visitor messaging through social media, mainly Facebook and Instagram. So how did we pick the places for the first campaign? Well, first, we started with the places we know that were feeling visitor pressures, either from conversations we've had with land managers or RDMOs. So you'll see, popular attractions like Multnomah Falls, Smith Rock, Crater Lake called out on the slide there. Next, we talked to our DMO partners. And so you'll see places like Trillium Lake and Spring Creek and Collier State Park added to the list. And then on top of that, we layered in places that were impacted by recent disasters. So, for example, trails closed by fires at Umpqua and Willamette National Forest. So how does this work? The campaign has two main tactics. First, to encourage visitors to consider places away from high-use areas, we employed what we call trigger ads. These are social paid trigger ads triggered by the 4 key travel weekends in the summer. So this would be Memorial Day, Labor Day, the first day of summer, and 4th of July. These ads were then served up to the metro areas that were nearest to the high-use area and focused on dispersal. So in this example, if you were around Medford, Ashland, Grants Pass, or Bend over Memorial Day weekend, you might have seen an ad here that redirected you to other great places in Southern Oregon. So that's the first tactic of this campaign. Second tactic we employed was messaging around a geographical radius around an attraction. So for example, I'll use Crater Lake again, Southern Oregon. The landmark ad for Crater Lake focused on a geo-fenced area 25 to 35 miles surrounding a landmark, surrounding Crater Lake. And we focused initially on know before you go messaging. So in this example for Crater Lake, if you were within the radius, you would see this message served up as you came into that radius. And so landmark ads were served on every non-holiday period during the summer. So that's approximately the 15 weekends that were not 4th of July, Memorial Day, etc. I just want to show you some examples. Here's a quick example of what a trigger ad looks like. And let's see if this video plays. So you get the gist of it. Essentially, it's encouraging folks to visit other great places within the same region, hopefully reducing pressure on Crater Lake. Here are some examples of landmark ads. So these are ads that were focused on know before you go messaging. So you'll see information about what to know before you visit Crater Lake. Oh, I'm sorry, Multnomah Falls. Impacted trails from wildfire, and an example for what we did for Spring Creek. So we've done this campaign for the past 3 summers, and we've driven more than 33 million impressions and approximately 110,000 clicks to know before you go content on TravelOregon.com. But most importantly, here's what we've learned and how we are thinking about evolving this work. First, because of the population size, locations closer to large metro areas such as Multnomah Falls, Smith Rock, and North Coast, and iconic places like Crater Lake tend to be more efficient from a cost standpoint rather than rural locations, which makes sense. We also know from an attention and engagement standpoint that people who encounter these ads are paying attention. The video ads that showcase alternate travel destinations are being heavily watched, and the ads pushing the know before you go messaging and driving clicks and engagement to the site are driving clicks and engagement to the site. Our success threshold for a typical ad is about 13%. And you'll see here that we're seeing almost double of that engagement for some of these ads. We're also thinking about expansion. So since this effort has been so successful, we'd like to work with our internal teams and outside partners to figure out how to evolve this work into an year-round campaign. So other places that need help can also be part of this effort. So for example, winter driving, snow parks, the Alvord, or Tamalich Pool. And in terms of measurement, I'm also looking at how we evolve our measurement and work with our research and analytics team to figure out if we can actually see behavior change. So we know that we're serving these ads in geo-targeted areas to people's mobile devices, and can we actually track them going to these alternate places? And so that's an ultimate like dream of mine to figure out how we can track kind of deeper engagement with this campaign. And then before I close, I also want to join Katie in really commending the team that helps work on this campaign. So my team, Alita, Amy, Jen, Cecilia, Heather, and also folks on Katie's team, Mark and Kelda in particular, and Gabriella. And so with that, I'd like to open it up to the commissions for any questions you have for me or Katie.
Commissioners, I'll ask if there are any questions or comments that you would like to share at this time. Harish.
I have a question for Katie. 926% increase in over the goal for guides is impressive, but since the print media is declining, how did you do that, or what was the goal?
Yeah, the goal. The goal heading into it was, let me pull up so I guess I have some more data. The goal heading into it was around 250, and then we were able to deliver 2,600, which is a really significant increase and helps us better understand how those ads are able to deliver. That had to do with optimizations that we worked on it was socially served ads, so we worked with our partner Sparkloft, and we were able to look at how we were tracking the ads, and we were able to optimize the audience that we were delivering them to. So it was really just optimizations of how those ads were served. And now we have that to be able to continue moving forward.
So approximately what percent of the guides went outside the state?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
That's okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, your definition about Portland was excellent. It just hit the nail. I liked it.
Oh, good.
Katie, I just wanted to thank you and your team. Such a great presentation and great work. And I really am just excited about the indispensable resource that Travel Oregon offers. It's become the go-to source for the industry because of the work that the brand stewardship team is doing. Great work. And I also, again, June being Pride Month, building pride in all that we do, but in place and with people and creating possibilities for travel. So thank you. And the tagline, I think it's a tagline, but Portland has the guts to go for it. Wow. I'm inspired. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Travis.
Just great presentation. Love the content. Couple questions. With the anticipation of the new PDX opening, I think in August, September-ish, are you working with them on some of these programs to help, maybe help them drive traffic and exposure for what you're doing currently with this campaign at all, or has that been taken consideration?
Not specifically. It's a good call out. We work really closely with the Port's marketing and branding team, but that's a good follow-up.
Okay. The other thing would be, I follow the newsletter. I get it, whenever the new publications come out. Love the website. One thing I always wanted or love to see is a SMS texting option, so I can actually get that information on my phone more instantaneous.
Okay,
and it's
good idea.
It's like I'm going to read it quicker, and if there's something that catches my eye, I will follow up on that, and I think that could have more, impressions.
That's a good idea.
So.
I'm glad I have Mo. I'm looking at you, Mo, too. Tell me follow up on that.
I'll ask Ariana if she can get on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Scott. Katie, Mo, thank you both. One of the slides Katie talked about the incredible return on ad spend through Expedia and Agoda Priceline. Were those just two standout online travel agency channels that you cited, or are those the two that we're investing the most of our ad spend with?
Those are the two primary platforms that we invested our ad spend in winter with. Those are also, just to be, those are parent companies that you'll see that each of them, Priceline has other associated OTAs that feed up to that. So when I say that, that's a summary of the platforms that they represent.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but those are the two that we decided were the most efficient, and based off of previous campaign ad spend, were the ones that we went with for winter. As we head into our planning for our always-on online travel agency spend for the next fiscal year, we're being reflective of results from all online travel agency partners to make sure that we're picking the most efficient and effective partners.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
For my sake, because I sometimes sit next to Scott, could you always have a teaser video? Because he says, every single time you say, I didn't have one. That's A. And the real portion of this is on that same slide with all sessions year over year up 66%. Is budget the same, or is budget increased as well in those results to achieve those results?
Right. I would need to follow up on the specifics, but let me follow up before I put my foot in my mouth. And Michael and probably Brian actually here would be like, Katie, stop. But this is with paid campaigns and market year over year. But we have the spend. I just don't have it in front of me.
Okay. And regardless, we needed the exposure, so thank you for getting that result. And then something you can't see presenting to us is the amount of DMOs, partners, RDMOs behind you taking pictures of your slide, which is seriously positive for alignment with what you're doing and the inclusion of this entire state in what you are doing. So thank you for the work you do. You're a leader.
Thanks.
Aw. If there are no other questions or comments, I will just add my thanks to both Katie and Mo, who seems to have disappeared. But thank you both. Katie, I love what you said, and I couldn't agree more. These folks, they truly are the best of the best. They're the smartest in the business. I will put our state tourism office up against any other team of folks. And what I most love is, while there's tremendous pride in the work and belief in the work and trust in the work, there's also great humility. I remember several years ago, and you saw it play out here, but several years ago, there were elements of a particular campaign that didn't go according to plan, like that would ever happen, right? But it didn't quite go according to plan. It's like, man, how do we report this out? And I said, you share it. It's what we learned, because it's not only about what we learned, but how we can share that in a way that our industry partners can learn as well. And so you see Mo pop up, key learnings. And those are as important as those success KPIs. What did we learn? What do we want to do different? How can we continue to get better? Sometimes giant leaps, and sometimes it's incremental. So thank you both very much for the presentation. Appreciate you very much. So, all right. Next, I'm going to invite up Kate Baumgartner, who is our External and Public Affairs Strategist, to give us a little bit of an update on the legislative session, a little peek into National Travel and Tourism Week. As she's getting set up, Commissioners, I do want to let you know that the Crisis Communications Update we are going to hold for the September meeting, and I do want to make sure that I have some time, and so we may run a little bit long, but I do want to give Brian and Petra the opportunity to share some of this early work that we're doing in terms of some of the dashboarding and benchmark setting and tracking KPIs against our current plan. So, because it's truly going to be the future in terms of how we are reporting out. So with that, Kate, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Todd. Good morning, Commissioners. I think I have 1 minute left to say that. I'm Kate Baumgartner, our Public and External Affairs Strategist here at Travel Oregon. Excited to talk to you today about legislative session and a bit about National Travel and Tourism Week as well. So to ground us in an understanding of our role in the state legislature, as you know, Travel Oregon is a semi-independent state agency. And that means that I'm not a lobbyist, and as a state agency, we often are not taking positions on bills. Rather, our role is to proactively educate policymakers and decision makers about Travel Oregon and about the tourism industry writ large. So as I'm talking today, I'm not trying to hint at like if we're a yes or a no on a bill, but more presenting information about how it may affect different aspects of the industry or certain engagement that we took over the course of legislative session. And to speak about legislative session, the 2024 legislative session was a short session, so 5 weeks versus 5 to 6 months, as happens in odd years. And the purpose of the short session is really to come together and say, what are some quick fixes? What are some issues that have bubbled up over the last year? You know, are there small budget adjustments we should be making? Tweaks to legislative language, rather than saying, hey, let's pass this giant package of policy items on one specific issue, or passing a big 2-year biannual budget. And the legislature came into the short session this year, which was February to March in 2024, with some clear focus. There was a mandate to fix Measure 110, the initiative that had decriminalized drug use across the state. Legislators were certainly focused on the governor's legislative agenda of addressing affordable housing and improving behavioral health. And then quite a bit of focus was also turned towards campaign finance reform over the course of those 5 weeks as well. And what that meant for the tourism industry is that, again, no big package of bills, but there was some news in the funding space. So no bills were introduced that had looked to adjust the transient lodging tax. Last year, we know that there was a bill that was introduced to say, let's double the statewide transient lodging tax and put that new 1.5% to grassland conservation for habitat. There's consistently efforts to look at the local transient lodging tax and say, should we adjust how tourism funding is directed? But that didn't come up this year. And what I'll say there is that this issue likely has not gone away. It's not put to bed, but was not a focus in those 5 weeks with the other mandates that the legislators came in with. There were some new dollars that were passed in a small funding package that did align with some tourism-connected priorities. So we know that arts and cultural institutions received millions of dollars from the state general fund as they continue to struggle in that climb out of the pandemic. You also likely saw there was a good deal of media focus on some funding that was given to sports facilities, especially minor league baseball. For example, the Hillsborough Hops received about $15 million for the new stadium that they need to build. Otherwise, that team would have to leave the state because the facility is not up to standard for that league. That's a project that the Washington County Visitors Association actually also made about a $2 million commitment to, and I think is an interesting example in some of the tourism facilities conversations we have around the state. That facility obviously is going to host some baseball games, but it's also being revamped in a way that they can host concerts, they can do their holiday activation where you drive through the winter lights, they've hosted wine festivals, and so it's really a great example of what does the community need, what's going to bring visitors to these communities, how can we work together and bring some dollars to deliver on that. The building where we're sitting is also a great example of that. But I raise that to say, it's not to say that every minor league sports facility in the state instantly becomes a tourism facility, right? But is a good example about understanding a community's need and visitors' needs to be brought into that community. It's how we have those conversations around facilities around the state, and excited to see the work that will happen out in Washington County as that building begins. They'll also call out here that local jurisdictions, so cities and counties, were focused on requests for funding for municipal infrastructure, so those building blocks of wastewater treatment facilities and roads. And that was often to support housing goals. If they're going to increase their housing stock in those cities, how are they also making sure their sewers can handle it? And I raise that because we know that in the past there have certainly been jurisdictions that have said, well, tourists go to the restroom and tourists drive on roads and tourists have these different needs, so these are tourism facilities. And the Department of Justice has issued an opinion that that's typically not true, with some small exceptions. But we know that many jurisdictions are in a revenue-constrained space and are looking for additional dollars to achieve those sort of building block infrastructure projects. And many were successful in receiving some dollars from the general fund this year to help move forward on those goals. To transition a bit to the recreation space, I think this is a great example of why short session exists the way that it does. There was an acute issue that had some real impacts on communities, needed a quick fix, and that happened. So in this case, that was a lawsuit out of the city of Newport where a woman was walking on a trail owned by the city of Newport that connected the beach to the city. She fell and was injured and sued the city. Previously, there had been something in place called recreational immunity, which basically says that as public landowners, if you open up your land to recreation, the people who are on it are taking on a basic degree of risk, and you're immune from lawsuits should they be injured while recreating on that land. The woman at question in this lawsuit said that she was not recreating, she was traveling from the beach to the city, and therefore recreational immunity did not apply. And the court agreed with her and allowed the court case to move forward. So all of a sudden, we saw that destinations up and down the coast were really concerned about what it meant for their ability to open up their public lands, knowing that they could be in a really similar situation. And almost overnight, a series of trails across the coast closed. Several other jurisdictions were considering closures, and others were taking on some sort of broad signage campaigns to say, by entering here, you're recreating, sort of disclosure language. So a number of recreation stakeholders, including the Oregon Coast Visitors Association, the Oregon Trails Coalition, and others came together and organized and said, we need to fix this because accessing our public lands is such a key value of us as Oregonians. We know it's really critical to our visitors as well. And they were able to pass through a quick fix that essentially reinstated recreational immunity. So again, those lawsuits will stop at the starting point, but it is only until January of 2026. So there's still going to be some long-term need to address that question, and I think we will look towards that next legislative session as folks kind of bring that issue back up. And this is a separate but related issue from another recreation lawsuit conversation that you may have heard around liability waivers. So previously, the concept that you're participating in fee-for-service recreation, you're going whitewater rafting or going skiing, you sign something that says, if I'm hurt, I can't sue you. Those signatures and those waivers are actually largely no longer legally binding in the state due to a series of lawsuits in recent years. And so those recreation stakeholders have also looked for a legislative solution. They did not bring one up in the short session because it was an issue that just felt challenging to address in 5 weeks. But we know that they've brought it up in previous legislative sessions, and it's likely to come up again because they're still seeking a solution in that space. So as we look to both of those issues as recreation items that are likely next year, I think it's something we can anticipate that the sort of broader organizing umbrella, the Protect Oregon Recreation Coalition that's done a lot of the work with our DMO stakeholders and with some recreation folks are likely to be active in both of those spaces, regardless of if they're one bill or a couple. I'll also note here in the recreation space that there were some new regulations for e-bikes talking about, what's the difference between one that you have to be pedaling versus one that has small gas motor attached to it, and some of the conversations around where are those legal on the streets, how old do you need to be to operate one, some of those elements. So watching that and making sure that we're communicating that as we need to as well. A couple other bills I'll touch on briefly. Travel Oregon was named as a seated member of the Semi-Quincentennial Commission, America's 250th birthday, which comes up July 4th, 2026. That's one where we're setting expectations that America turning 250 is not necessarily going to bring a huge uptick in tourism to Oregon, but it is an opportunity to celebrate Oregon's cultures, people, history, vitality, and beauty, and that's something that we always look to be supportive and engaged with. So that's a bill that the governor introduced, named Travel Oregon as someone who would have a seat on that commission. Lisa Edel will be representing for Travel Oregon, and really excited that her perspective from partnerships will be brought to that, as well as the work that she's been doing with the Tribal Tourism Working Group. We also had some engagement on a bill that suggested Oregon transition to permanent standard time, so the sun would be setting at 8:45 instead of 9:45 tonight, and rise at 4:45 instead of 5:45 tomorrow morning. And that's one where we provided what's called a fiscal impact statement. So again, not taking a specific position on a bill, but saying we would have to expend some resources if this bill is passed, and here's why. In this concept, it was understanding that if Washington and California are on a different time zone than Oregon, that's likely pretty confusing to the visitor, right? Especially those international visitors that we know don't see state borders in the same way. And so the resources that we would have to expend are some educational resources to say, here's what to expect if you're doing a big West Coast road trip, or if you're spending the weekend in the gorge and you're going between White Salmon and Hood River, you're changing time zones 8 times. So we indicated that that would cost us some money. We'd be developing that content and making sure that it reaches people as well. That bill was ultimately amended to say that they would only make that switch if Washington and California also went to permanent standard time, and then ultimately did not succeed in final passage before the end of the legislative session. We also tracked some bills that have regulations on guidance specific to state agencies. So when can we ask the Ethics Commission on advice for public meeting laws, items like that. No major updates there. It's a pretty standard practice for us to just make sure we're understanding where we need to comply. And then as we look towards 2025, that'll again be a long legislative session, so 5 to 6 months. And we know that there's some inevitable turnover in the legislative body between now and then. Less so than in 2022 to 2023, where more than half of the state legislature was new, but the legacy of the legislative walkout, as well as some retirements and folks who are running for higher office in Oregon, does mean there will be some transition. We also know there's likely to be some continued attention on the transient lodging tax. Conservation groups could reintroduce that habitat bill that I mentioned. There's likely potential tension with the split of local transient lodging tax dollars. That's an issue that continues to pop up every so often. So as we think about that, there is an ongoing need for education and industry engagement, making sure that ourselves, but also DMOs and other partners are talking about the work and the value that they're doing in their communities with their legislators. Travel Oregon continues to develop tools for those conversations. The transient lodging tax anniversary video that we unveiled at the governor's conference is a great example of that. I'll also note here that myself and Jeff Miller from Travel Portland actually presented to the House Economic Development and Small Business Committee last week, talking a bit about our current efforts, Jeff on sort of how they're supporting Portland's recovery, us on sort of the state of tourism. There's some great industry members who serve on that committee as well, so excited to continue to build those relationships and make sure that they're understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it. One other great opportunity in championing that value of tourism is National Travel and Tourism Week. So that's an annual event organized by the U.S. Travel. This year it was May 19th to 25th, so we just wrapped it up. And the mission of NTTW is to celebrate travel's essential role in driving our nation's economy, cultivating vibrant communities, and forging connections. So you can see there's some clear alignment to our current strategic priority to advance the perception of tourism's value, increasing advocacy among residents, policymakers, and workforce. And this year we undertook a media push to release our economic impact report in line with those National Travel and Tourism Week dates. We got some great coverage of that, more than 20 stories placed locally and nationally, including some really awesome print and digital coverage in the Portland Business Journal. I was trying to find one to bring to me. I couldn't find it one time, but some really awesome coverage that I'd recommend taking a look at. Some great coverage on local broadcast as well. So excited to see those numbers, especially that $14 billion that we surpassed in travel spending for the first time in state history. And finally, our return to employment numbers at the statewide level coming out of the COVID pandemic. So excited to see that coverage. We also were able to support some of our RDMO partners in their efforts to engage in the workforce space for National Travel and Tourism Week as well. As you heard from Harry, May 19th to 25th was a busy time for a lot of our RDMO partners, so not everyone was able to engage, but the photos you see on the right here are from the Mount Hood and the Gorge region, where Experience Mount Hood and the Gorge undertook their thank you project. So I believe a couple of you were able to participate when you had your commission meeting in Hood River a few years ago. A couple of our Portland area commissioners volunteered to spend some time out there, and Commissioner Willits, while he was in town for the RFP, to just go out and thank businesses. Thank those folks who are doing that frontline visitor engagement work every day about the impact that they're having. There were some really cute cookies that the RDMO made and dropped off, and then we were also able to share some of our economic impact messaging at that same time. So they understand what they're doing to contribute to community in that same way. The Oregon Coast Visitors Association took on a similar project, really focused on thanking their DMOs and visitor centers and convention bureaus. And then the Willamette Valley Visitors Association took on sort of a similar but different approach, where they offered a bit of a mini FAM for a bunch of their industry partners to say, here's what we're actually doing and here's how you're contributing to our regenerative tourism efforts and our economic impact. So really excited that our RDMOs engaged in that way, continue to see this as an opportunity that we look towards in future years as well. I'll call out a couple of our DMO partners that were really active in National Travel and Tourism Week as well. I saw a couple of you at at Washington County Visitors Association's 40th anniversary. That also was a NTTW celebration. Travel Salem had a great celebration that included a proclamation from the mayor acknowledging National Travel and Tourism Week. And Travel Lane County also had a great celebration where they were able to share their economic impact numbers. So excited to see that success around the state and look forward for next year to continue to build on that as well. With that, I'm happy to transition to questions and really appreciate everyone's time.
Kate, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for Kate at this time?
So, yes, Kate, very informative. Please keep on educating our legislatures. But I have one question. Is this not changing our clock twice a year movement stopped, or is there something left to it, or we just leave it as it is?
This is one of my favorite topics, Commissioner. So there has been a bill that successfully passed the state legislature, I think 3 or 4 years ago now, that said we should be on permanent daylight time. So essentially, the time that we're on now stays year-round, it stays lighter an hour later in the winter. For that bill to take effect, and that passed successfully, the governor signed it. For that bill to take effect, Congress has to authorize states to be able to make that decision. California and Washington have also passed those same bills, but they also need Congress to authorize that. There's a bill to do that, the Sunshine Protection Act, that successfully passed the Senate last Congress, but did not pass the House, and I believe it's not passed either the Senate or the House this year. So in the meantime, people are tired of changing their clocks, right? So there was an effort to say, let's go to permanent standard time, because for some reason, Congress doesn't have to approve that change. And so that effort was introduced in the legislature this year, had some challenges with sort of what's the interstate commerce impact, as I spoke to, and did ultimately not succeed to pass, but could come up again. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know that the senator who is the main sponsor of that will continue to serve, because she was a member who participated in the legislative walkout, but somebody else could bring that up in the future. Yeah. Thanks.
Kate.
Yes.
Thank you. Great presentation as well. As it relates to transportation, I know California, for example, has started moving forward with their high-speed rail, that 120 miles per hour plus Vegas, San Francisco. And I know in Oregon, there was some discussion about it pass. Has there been any discussion about that recently? Are we actually going to start moving forward 2030, 35, or?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner.
Right.
I did not see discussion of high-speed rail in the state legislature this year. There was some discussion about rail expansion of like a commuter rail service from Salem to Portland. On the federal level, the U.S. Department of Transportation has, I believe, provided a grant to do a feasibility study on high-speed rail from Portland either to Seattle or to Vancouver, BC, and I believe those feasibility efforts have started. I think WashDOT is the grantee on that, but obviously will have implications for Oregon as well.
Okay. Start.
All right, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Commissioners, we're going to hold, as I mentioned, on the Crisis Communications Plan update and have that at our September meeting. So at this time, it's my pleasure to invite Petra Hackworth, who you know is our VP of Insights and Impact, and Brian Mullaney, who's our Director of Strategy, Research, and Analytics, provide us with an end of the fiscal year, or almost end of the fiscal year. It's not quite June 30 yet. But to provide us an update on the KPIs and such that we are tracking as part of our annual fiscal year planning, as well as our 10-year vision. So with that, Petra, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for sticking it out with us, being the last presentation, going over time just a little bit. Again, Vice President of Insights and Impact, it's my pleasure to serve in this role. And my name is Petra Hackworth, and I'm here with our new Director of Strategy, Research, and Analytics, Brian Mullaney. And I have some really interesting news that he shared with me today. His family, his father's family is from Medford, and if you look, sorry, I'm going to share. If you look at the pictures of the contributors, his grandpa is one of them for this wonderful new complex. Yeah, in the hall. Yeah.
Thank you, Petra.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to pass it on since we're in Medford right now. So we thought that we would take you through a little bit of history where we are right now, coming up to where we are right now. We have a new commissioner and some other commissioners that haven't been on the commission for quite as long, so we thought it might be worth it to go down memory lane and talk a little bit about the 10-year vision and how we got there. So we can take the slide. Great, thank you. So during the pandemic, Travel Oregon is working what we call the rebuild plan, and many of you that have been here for a while are familiar with that. We worked through that, and then we started to think about the next 2 years, and that's when we hired a company called Destination Think, and they worked with us on a strategic plan, and as we were working on that plan, it kind of turned into a 10-year vision, and this is the first ever 10-year vision that Travel Oregon has put together. It's a long-term vision for us, and in that, every 2 years we'll have a strategic plan. So that was really exciting. We engaged with a lot of community members, a lot of different organizations. The team, almost every person from the staff at that time had a huge impact on where the plan was going to land. And this is something I can say everyone at Travel Oregon is very proud of. This is a plan that everyone stands behind, everyone understands, and there are passion points within the plan, but it's really exciting to be able to work on this. So in our first year of the 10, we mapped out our new organizational structure, which is the redesign, and that started July 1st. And that's where we came up with the team that Brian and I are on, the Insights and Impact team, really in service to the agency and the industry. And we also identified our strategic priorities. And so we have 19 strategic priorities in the 10-year plan, and we identified which ones, based on the stakeholder survey, should be prioritized in the first 2-year plan. So now we're into the first year of the biennial plan, which is one off every year that Brian is going to talk to us about today. We're not going to get into KPIs as much. We are planning that for a September commission meeting. So Brian, I'll let you take that away.
Thank you, Petra. I'd like to start by walking everyone through the framework for this planning process. The biennial plans are our vehicles for executing on our 10-year strategic vision. On the left, you'll see our objectives, or as we like to call them, the 4 E's. Economy, get a little closer, economy, equity, experience, and the environment. Within the objectives live our 19 strategic priorities. On a biennial basis, we select a limited number of strategies to focus on. Each strategy identified as a priority for the biennial plan gets a 2-year action plan created and led by an executive sponsor, a program lead, with corresponding KPI review and measurement. For our 23-25 biennial plan, we landed on the 4 strategic priorities listed here, which are represented by the blue pills from the framework. Those prioritized strategies include advance the perception of tourism value, reduce high visitation pressures, assist communities in crisis, and attract and retain the tourism workforce. Along with these Wave 1 priorities, there are 8 additional prioritized strategies listed within the biennial plan that I'll highlight later. But any good plan should be flexible, and changes were made once we really dug into the work. And you can see those changes highlighted here. While we had the Attract and Retain Tourism Workforce Action Plan locked and loaded, we determined that we didn't have the staffing in place to execute on it, so we put that plan on hold until our Industry Development Manager was hired. And that position is now filled. Welcome back, Jamie Eder. We also determined that the reduce high visitation pressures and expand destination management engagement priorities were closely aligned and already underway, so we combined those efforts led by Scott Bricker and Alexa Carey. And lastly, we added 2 prioritized strategies from our Oregon is a Place of Equity objective with the inclusion of the Integrate DEI agency-wide, led by Susan Bladholm, and the Elevate Voices of the Underserved Communities, led by Lisa Edel. Here you'll see all 12 of our strategic priorities outlined in the biennial plan. Now, before someone calls out that 5 + 6 = 11, not 12, there are 2 strategies listed under bullet 2 in Wave 1. We'll add our Wave 2 priorities as we wrap up our work on Wave 1 priorities. Now, commissioners, you may be wondering how we are keeping tabs on all of this. And while I don't expect all of you to read this on screen here, you have this visual at your seat to reference. To steal a term from Susan Bladholm, this is our 23-25 biennial strategy placemat. And it was created by interim portfolio strategist Adam Bamford. This is a cheat sheet covering a little more detail surrounding our prioritized strategies that I just mentioned, along with other important details to keep top of mind. This is a printout that I've found very, very handy over the last couple of months, and I'm sure that you will too. So you may be thinking, what is the intent of our strategic priorities and their accompanying action plans? How does this work coexist with the ongoing everyday work at Travel Oregon, and how do you bring this vision to life? Our strategic priorities, supporting our 10-year strategic vision, are the bodies of work that we are either working on now but want to get better at, or it's work that we are not doing that we want to start working on. Our intent with the completion of each biennium is to naturally roll our strategic priority work into our ongoing everyday work at Travel Oregon via our strategic action plans. And this is how we turn our vision into an everyday reality. Using the Assist Communities in Crisis strategic priority as an example, we are focusing on what milestones we are wanting to accomplish within that priority within the current 23-25 biennium. And in this case, we have our new crisis communication plan. That plan is a product of our crisis Assist Communities in Crisis strategic action plan. It is a milestone that we accomplish. And more importantly, it is a new tool in the communication team's tool belt to be pulled out as needed as part of their everyday work. Also, I think it's important to note that our strategic priorities can be repeated in multiple biennial plans as needed. They just have to have a new set of milestones for the next 2-year period. And lastly, as a reminder, our strategic priorities are determined during the biennial planning process based off data collected from our stakeholder survey and internal staff input. In terms of progress within our action plans that I've just discussed, are the executive sponsors and program leads for each prioritized strategy are moving their body of work forward. Here you'll see a table that outlines the status of our current prioritized strategies, which includes the biennium status, the executive sponsor, and the program lead. I'd love to give you a detailed rundown about all the amazing work that's underway, but that is a story for another day. However, feel free to reach out to the executive sponsors or program leads if you have any further questions. All right, let's talk about next steps for year 2 of the biennium. In the early part of the year, we'll look to hire a strategy manager. This position will be responsible for key 10-year strategic vision and biennial plan tasks, guiding program leads on their action plans, and collaborating with the Insights and Planning Manager on KPIs, amongst many other tasks. Secondly, we still have some work to do with baselining our environmental KPIs and some DEI KPIs as listed in the 10-year strategic vision. Thirdly, for some of our already baseline KPIs, we need to establish goals as outlined in our current biennial plan. Fourthly, we need to stand up our 2 on-deck strategic priorities: attract and retain the tourism workforce, and support the development of experiences for underserved communities. And lastly, and no small feat, we need to draft our 25-27 biennial plan for approval at the June 2025 commission meeting. And with that, I'll wrap it up and open the door for any questions. Thank you.
Great presentation, Petra and Brian. Thank you so much. Questions or comments from the commission?
No, I just want to thank you for printing on this size and not a standard paper like this.
No problem. Yeah, thanks to Thea in the office for doing that for me.
I hope that at the September meeting, these truly will be placemats, and we'll all get one to use every evening at home. So
yeah, you heard that, Sarah, right? We'll work on placemats.
Everyone in Travel Oregon has this at their work all the time.
I love it.
There's a lot of information
Indeed.
to remember and to go over. So
thanks to you both. Really appreciate all your work.
Petra and Brian, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you also in the supplement that we received in advance, the appendix information that even provides additional detail is really, really welcome and greatly appreciated. The depth of content that you provide is incredibly appreciated. So just thank you.
it really took everyone at Travel Oregon to have their hand in how are we going to do this work? How are we going to put this together? What are the next steps? So.
Petra and Brian, again, thank you for your presentation and thank you for the work. I want to applaud your efforts for developing KPIs with your team towards DEI and elevating the voices of those underserved communities and people. Thank you.
Commissioner Gremmels, we had a chance to talk about that yesterday. That's what we're going to be doing, finalizing some of our DEI KPIs the rest of the week, this week. So.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you both. And with that, yeah. And with that, Chair DeNovo, I will turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Todd. Well, we have reached the end of our agenda today, but before we adjourn, I want to ask, is there any additional business or announcements from the Commission? Vice Chair Willits.
If you've been around Lucinda recently, you're aware that she's very proud of a new venture for the Coquel Indian tribe and the Mill Casino Hotel and RV Park, and that is they are the first tribally owned spirit production enterprise in the state of Oregon. And she may or may not have told me she's going to enjoy the opening of the waterfront tasting room with all of us when it opens up and pay for it all. Correct?
That's exactly what I said,
Okay.
Vice Chair
All right.
Willits, yes. Indeed, we are excited. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Greg.
No, thank you. It's an honor for this state and for your tribe. Thank you. The final piece is Sisters Oregon is hosting a rodeo this weekend, and it is the highest grossing purse anywhere in the U.S. this weekend, our small town in Central Oregon. It's a special spot, and if anybody would like to enjoy it Saturday night in a locals box seat, I may or may not have extra seats. So see me afterwards. All right, take care, and thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I was
just want to thank Rogue X for hosting this phenomenal venue, Travel Medford, for these most comfortable seats that really helped us get through 2 days of meetings. The most comfortable seats I've sat in during my service as a commissioner. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gremmels. This morning, we talked about welcome centers, and I was remiss in acknowledging Tammy right here at the meeting, Tammy Menzel from the Ashland Welcome Center. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all of your work as well. Really appreciate that. Commissioners, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you for the work that you're doing as a commission, but the work that you're doing in your regions. I'm so honored to be serving on this commission with you, and we talk a lot about commissioner engagement, and so it was exciting today to be able to report out all the great work that this commission is involved with the very talented team at Travel Oregon. I would like to congratulate, I know TJ you mentioned it, but I want to call it out again. I want to congratulate Medford, Travel Medford, and the entire community for not only this beautiful space, but securing the 2027 Cornhole World Championship. and for the wonderful plans you have for this space in your community. So congratulations to you. Our next meeting will be in late September in Central Oregon, immediately following the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association Hospitality Conference. And more information will be posted to our industry website as soon as it's available. And with that said, meeting adjourned. Thank you.